Oh, hello. How many of you remember when they would do a lot of TV show intros that way? Oh, hello. I'm just doing the dishes or I'm mopping something up. Oh, hello. I'm so surprised the camera crew showed up with all the lights pre-positioned in this boom microphone or a lavalier microphone attached to my Oh, hello. I'm so surprised you're here at this exact moment to film the introduction to the thing I'm about to tell you about. How many of you remember when they would do a lot of TV? We are broadcasting live on Facebook. That is good. So I'm going to share this to our 3 groups. Let's see if we can get people in to join us. Join our daily TNAM AM show. How about that? Kaboom. Sent. We are streaming on Rumble. Fantastic. David Bann is in the house. Excellent. Life is good. We are ready to rock and roll, everyone. Broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, somewhere in between 2 formerly tariffed nations. My name is Brian Engelman. Today is Monday, April 14th, 2025, and this is the TNAM AM Show here on the New American Media. Thank you all very much for joining. Please check out the New American Media in all of the places. Search The New American Media on Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, Kick, DLive, and YouTube. Also, we're on Telegram and Signal at TNAM and TNAM Chat. We're on X at American_Media_. By the way, these are scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Just hit pause and make sure you're linked up with us in all these accounts. Our podcast is the Agree to Disagree Show on Spotify and Apple. You can follow it there. That covers the TNAM AM Show. I'll put that on the Agree to Disagree Show. For all things discussing health and elections, go to cdc.gov, who.int, and cisa.gov/rumor control. I say this under duress because social media overlords will delete, demonetize, derank, deboost, and memory hole my content if I don't tell you that. Because they treat you like you're a child, incapable of cognitive thought, reasoning, investigation. Social media hates you because they hate me. If anyone wants to buy a cup of coffee for the New American Media, we're on patreon.com/the New American Media. Thank you to our new subscribers. 2 of you recently. If we could get 20 more of you, that'd be awesome. If we get 200 more of you, even better. 2,000, 2 million. Much appreciated. But anybody can sign up on any level, $5 a month, $15 a month, $100 a month, $1,000 a month. There's different tiers, whatever you have the ability to donate, because, you know, in lieu of all the time I spend on putting all of these shows together, it does cut into the ability for me to work other jobs full time. So if I can't recoup it here, I can't deliver it to you today, now. But we'll see how things shake out in the next couple of months. I may be taking on another client. I may take on another role, and I may take these morning shows that happened right around noon to the evening, late evening, and it may not be every day a week, depending on how this shakes out. But after all of the expenditures of 2024, it's income time this year for the New American Media and for me. It was great going to all of the major political conventions, D.C. for the Libertarians, Milwaukee for the Republicans, Chicago for the Democrats, going to inauguration, D.C. again. Yeah, but it adds up quick, and that war chest is depleted, as they say. But this is a labor of love. I enjoy unpacking the news with all of you. So please type in your comments and say hello to us. David says good morning. He's checking in from Ottawa, Ontario. Why did I say Ottawa? I don't know where that came from. Some O place up there in Canada. Oh, Canada. But yeah, however you're watching, please hit type your name or your initials and tell me where you're watching from. We like to have the conversations on the side of the show so that as we talk about subjects, you can chime in and I can incorporate your thoughts into the program. And when you do that, please just try to speak in, type in full sentences. Be like, yeah, that sucks. Because when I go back and I get a chance to look at the comments, I go, what sucks? I talked about 3 stories. You could say, oh, that judge reducing the bail on the track meet stabber. Some judge reduced the bail from $1 million to, what was it, $250,000 after $500,000 has been raised on a GoFundMe for some reason. So if that's a story that you say that sucks, just make your comment. I can't believe the judge. It sucks that judge reduced his bail by 75% or whatever, by $750,000. You know what? Maybe we could start today's show, since I am streaming in the Unhappy Hour. Let me just start off with sports real quick, kind of walk you through what's going on. We'll just do a touch and go kind of thing. Now, why did Instagram do the hard reset? What happened? There we go. That was weird. Let's share this tab and just kind of get you caught up to date on what's going on. It is an interesting time in the wide world of sports. So here's just a couple of updates. I also do the show called the Unhappy Hour Sports Show. The Unhappy Hour Sports Show. David's in a place called Stony Creek, Hamilton, Ontario. Awesome, dude. I used to go into Ontario all the time. Windsor, Ontario. Right across the street from Detroit. An hour 15 away from where I went to college. I'm a fan. All right, let's walk you through what happened in the world of sports. Let's click on the Masters. Rory McIlroy beat Justin Rose in the first playoff hole to win his first Masters and complete the career Grand Slam. He was able to do that with a bogey on the 72nd hole. Wow. To win the Masters on a bogey. It's like when you get into one of those fights, like, yeah, you should have seen the other guy. If you win it on a bogey, how bad was the other guy? Rose was looking for his first green jacket. He came in second. Patrick Reed in third. Scotty Scheffler in fourth. So he's got a career Grand Slam. He's won all of the majors. Congratulations to Rory McIlroy. Shared a story. God, I can't even remember if it was on Instagram or into the maybe it was into the New American Media Facebook group. But I think it was that this is the first year. Let me see if I can find this. In hockey, let me just give you a quick update here with hockey. They said this is the first year. I'll get to hockey in a second. So Rory McIlroy made history, becoming, I believe, just the 6th player in history to get the Grand Slam. Gene Sandison, 1935. Ben Hogan, 53. Gary Player, 65. What a great name for a golfer. Player. What a great name for a golfer. Gary Player. He's a real player. Tiger Woods in 2000. Can you believe Tiger Woods was a phenom 25 years ago? Does that even feel right? 25 years have passed. The story I wanted to share. So this is the first time in NHL history that the Rangers, Penguins, and Bruins have all failed to qualify for the playoffs. First time in NHL history, the Bruins, Rangers, and Penguins all missed the playoffs. So there you have it. I'm in the playoff watch, but I don't know. I guess they don't have it all finalized. Where is the playoffs? Well, anyway, the team I should theoretically root for, being an Ohio kid, Columbus Blue Jackets, it looks like they've neither clinched a spot nor been eliminated. Eliminated. I guess it's what, coming down to the Canadiens or the Jackets? We'll see how that shakes out. Let's go over to the NBA real quick. The Suns have fired Mike Budenholzer. A lot of coaches getting fired. Kind of strange, really. Take a look at this. The Cleveland Cavaliers have clinched the #1 seed. Am I showing you the right screen? Yes, I am. Cleveland Cavaliers have clinched the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs, and the Oklahoma City Thunder have clinched the #1 in the Western. 2 seed Celtics East, 2 seed Rockets West. Lakers have climbed up to the #3. So I'm guessing you're going to see a Lakers-Cavaliers championship with the Cavs winning. Knicks, Pistons, Pacers, Bucks. Also, our opponent will be to be determined. How does this work? You got Atlanta playing Orlando, a 500 team in the Magic, and then Atlanta being 2 games under 500, the Hawks. Grizzlies playing the Golden State Warriors. They're both 48 and 34. They would have easily made the playoffs in the East, but so I guess these are the play-in games. Is that how that works? So there you have it. Kablamo. Wide world of sports, everybody. Yeah, I don't spend nearly as much time on sports as I used to. It's nice watching the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers, obviously. But I've been watching just this time of year. I'm super excited for baseball. I'm happy that baseball's back. Absolutely thrilled that spring is here. We've kind of started a new era, bursting forth from our cocoons and hitting reset on a lot of things. April Fool's Day was traditionally where you were called a fool if you celebrated the new year being in April. And it's like, well, doesn't it make sense? Spring emerges from this cold blah. And it's like, new year. Then you go through all the crappy winter weather, then new year. I mean, that sort of makes sense to me. Anyway, I digress. Let's jump into the news, shall we? And if there's any story you want us to talk about that we haven't talked about or you'd like us to prioritize, go ahead and leave a message. Type it in the comments and we will try to get to it. Hit like, hit subscribe, however you're watching today. All right, so this is from Raging West saying that the Irish Prime Minister, Michael Martin, gets chased down the street by angry citizens shouting, "Close the border and protect our women and children." Ireland is under the same invasion that the United States has been under. The colonization, the Obama doctrine of flooding sovereign nations with non-citizens to permanently change their voting base, their demographic base. We talk about it all the time on this show.
Keep U.S. people safe. These are the people the U.S. monster. These are the people that's supposed to represent me home. U.S. monster. Close the borders, what's going on? What's going on? Selling out the country. These fake border police. They got the U.S. monster. Proud to be Irish.
There is a thought that these people complicit in all forms of treason will not be able to walk down the streets. You've heard that a million times. They ran Trudeau out pretty quick. We typed here, the Obama colonization has failed. The people have spoken. To flood Ireland with non-Irish, to flood America with non-Americans, to flood England with non-English.
Neil, man, close the borders, Neil. Close the borders, Neil. Stop putting all these people on this.
So there you have it. People are not thrilled about that.
It's incredible.
Now, okay, so this is Candace on the Jimmy Dore show. This has been circulating, talking about one of the worst mass murderers in history, and just kind of curiosity why the Ghislaine Maxwell brand, the Maxwell father, printed the school books that you learned from. But I really don't feel like, if the numbers are accurate that Candace is talking about, why has so much attention been paid to one particular story, yet this one has been almost ignored? This is a conversation between Jimmy Dore and Candace Owens.
Incredible. People think that the greatest mass murderer was Adolf Hitler. No, actually, if you want to talk about genocide, the fact that people in America don't know about what the Bolsheviks did to Christians, where did the idea of a concentration camp come from? The Bolsheviks. The reason why we're not allowed to learn about these people, we don't talk about Henry Goda, is because he's a Jew, right? And so it conflicts with the narrative of Jewish people always being the victim in every single circumstance. So we're willing to push away Christian history. We don't talk about Christian history whatsoever because they have this bizarre focus, our classrooms, on training us to have this bizarre allegiance to Israel.
And there has been an anti-Christian bias from the Obama administration, from legacy media, from the school system, the educators. It's been massive, and it's very vitriolic. Candace is asking, why are we being trained to have this bizarre allegiance? Why?
And so to suit us, I feel that we are heavily propagandized in the classroom. And the reason why I feel that way is because we spend years talking about the Holocaust, only for me to learn when I'm out of school about a bigger Holocaust that took place at the exact same time. We were locking arms with Stalin. I mean, you read Alexander Solzhenitsyn talking about the gulags and who built those gulag systems, who created those gulag systems. The majority of them, he eventually wrote a book, were Jewish men. And of course, this has not become collective guilt. Doesn't mean all Jews are Bolsheviks and think this way. But the fact that I'm denied the right to talk about my history while you demand I talk about yours, and you demand that I worship Israel, doesn't fly with me. It's incredible. People think that.
So, actually, we'll leave a comment. It's time to expand upon this conversation. Who controls the past now controls the future. Who controls the present now controls the past. Now testify. Those are lyrics from Zach De La Rocha in Rage Against the Machine. So yeah, the Ghislaine Maxwell connection, her dad was the one that made the textbooks. And Ghislaine's got a bunch of connections. And she still hasn't been, she's still just sitting in jail quietly, and nobody's been busted. None of the Johns. Interesting. All right, so this happened a couple days ago. Did you catch that Trump pulled a power move and signed an executive order on election fraud while Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer was in the White House? DC Drano putting this out, saying Michigan has seriously corrupt elections. Remember this video of a mysterious van dropping off tens of thousands of ballots at 3 a.m. with no GOP supervisors? Do you know where that happened? Detroit, Michigan. That's where I have to tell you, like a child, under duress. Go to cisa.gov/rumor control, because they'll tell you 2020 was the only free and fair election in the history of elections. Oh, it was the freest and the fairest. All those unsecure drop boxes that didn't have signature verification, no voter ID, stacks and stacks allegedly being dropped off, harvested at the same time. Totally free and fair, like super legit. There's your countervailing view to what DC Drano's talking about here. Gretchen Whitmer found herself in the Oval Office this week for a one-on-one meeting with Trump, but in appearance before the press corps, she temporarily shielded herself from the cameras. Is there a weirder picture of a guilty soul than this? I mean, I'm going to type this. Comedian Mitch Hedberg has a joke about CarMax. He said he doesn't know. There we go. Doesn't know if they remove cold sores, but they will make them shiny and more noticeable. Just like Whitmer covering her face. It brings 100 times more scrutiny and suspicion because of her doing it. There you go. Maybe that's a little convoluted, but I think the point remains. Eric Daughtry says, see it. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer seen shielding her face temporarily from the cameras for some reason. New York Times, Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan stood glumly in the Oval Office, hoping no one would take her picture. Trump derangement syndrome makes people go insane. She had not expected to be there, standing in front of the cameras, as President Trump signed executive orders punishing those who opposed his 2020 election lies. Oh, that's a weird way to say that. Lies. What court took the case? They all kept ruling that nobody had standing. Okay, maybe not they all, but a whole bunch of them did. Countervailing views, go see them.
This never happened. Had he actually called me, I know.
Here's this van, strange hour, Detroit, allegedly.
November 4th, she was inside the TCF and she said, Jim, you won't believe it. I just heard that a van dropped off boxes of ballots in the middle of the night. And
boxes and boxes and boxes.
And she was working inside the TCF that morning. So we put in a request to get this video. It took months. And we got this at Gateway Planet. We put this up on on our site. We tweeted about it, and that's when we lost our Twitter account, by the way.
Oh, yeah, we got silenced, shadow banned, our account removed by Meta. Remember, Meta spent, what was it, $500,000? 500 million? What? Actually, that's a big difference. Millions, billions, trillions. It's all so goofy. Let me ask Grok. And if you don't find yourself using Grok more than Google, you should. What was the question I was asking? How much did Zuckerberg spend on drop boxes? Insecure, unsecure, drop boxes. No verification needed. $419 million to two nonprofits to support election infrastructure during the pandemic. Yeah. Thousands of drop boxes deployed across the U.S. Bullshit.
Putting up this video. There's a lead car, an escort car that comes in. You can see here each time he hands something to the people inside, and then this van drives in, and they actually came in twice. Now, we had local media, one of the top.
Remember 2020, when all 7 of those states, those swing states, fraud states, when they all magically paused their counting, Trump was up hundreds of thousands of votes. Oh, and just magically, Joe Biden, you know how popular and competent Joe Biden is. Yeah, 81 million votes.
Reporters there. I'm not going to mention his name.
The Democrats paid to burn America down all summer in their summer of love. And they want us to believe. You gotta be kidding me. Oh, yeah, Americans elected the domestic terrorists. Bullshit.
He said that this never happened. He was there all night. There was no fraud. Nothing happened. So now we have the video.
Hang on, is this Jim? If that's Jim Hoft. I interviewed him at the Republican convention in Milwaukee a couple months ago.
Of that. This never happened. Had he actually called.
Look at that. There is Trump derangement syndrome. Remember, Whitmer was involved with that plot where she conspired to kidnap herself, where the feds conspired to kidnap her. You know, like Juicy Smollett, Bubba Wallace, LeBron James hate crime hoax, allegedly. You know, the one they showed up to. Oh, someone spray painted nasty words on my garage door. All right, cops show up. Let's see it. Where is it? We cleaned it. You cleaned evidence? Yep. Sure you did. All right, let's see your video cameras. Let's see the people that did it. See if we can get some leads on the vehicles and license plate and whatnot. Oh, you weren't recording. You're LeBron James in Los Angeles and you don't have a functional security system? Cool story, bro. Cool story, bro. All right, well, that was something funny that happened over the weekend. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, according to We Are Breitbart, secures first and free passage for U.S. ships in the Panama Canal. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had one mission on his trip to Panama to secure a deal to get first and free passage for U.S. ships in the Panama Canal, a critical waterway for the U.S. economy and military that was at risk of falling under China control. As the secretary and his team flew down from Washington on Monday to meet with Panama's leaders, such a deal with Panama was far from certain. While the U.S. had built the canal in the early 1900s and maintained it for decades before handing it over to Panama, China had in recent years poured money into projects and infrastructure attached to it. As a passageway between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans that handles more than 40% of U.S. maritime trade, if China were able to close the canal, it would be catastrophe for the U.S. President Donald Trump, early on in his administration, made retaking the canal from Chinese influence a top priority. In December, even before he took office for the second time, he posted about it on Truth Social. In February, Donald Trump dispatched Secretary of State Marco Rubio to Panama during his first international trip, where he successfully persuaded Panama to not renew its participation in BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, a major win for the United States. Then in March, a Hong Kong-based conglomerate named C.K. Hutchinson sold two ports along with the canal to a consortium led by investment giant BlackRock. Now, I'm no fan of BlackRock. I don't know how they keep skirting around monopoly laws, but if one company can't, isn't Facebook, isn't Meta in a trial now for monopoly busting? Because they say you can't have WhatsApp, a telephone app. You can't have Instagram where you share pictures and videos, and Facebook, which just does the same thing. Why can BlackRock own everything relevant, from housing to ports to fill in the blanks? Help me understand that. If there's anyone in the comments that can help me understand why Meta has to face lawsuits for monopoly, but BlackRock can buy everything under the sun, but they don't. I don't understand that. I'm open to conversation on that. Type it in the comments, please. Anyway, C.K. Hutchinson sold two ports along the canal to an investment giant BlackRock that puts the two ports located at each end of the canal under American operation. So now we have full passage in, full passage out. The Chinese government then launched an investigation into the deal to delay it. President Trump touted the deal during his joint address to Congress. Now it was up to Hegseth to secure U.S. ships' first and free passage through the canal. Yeah, Zeldin is saying he's so unqualified. Pete Hegseth is doing more than all Dems have done put together in the past 8 years. Yeah, we built it. We should have head of the line privileges. And we should call it the United States Canal. America built it. We own it. This person loves everything but the participation of BlackRock. Yep. Joey Manorino has some thoughts. Oh, got to shift the... There we go. Joey Manorino says, Jasmine Crockett, who is human garbage, just said that it's beyond wild that no one is questioning President Trump's mental acuity or fitness to serve. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree with that? Jasmine Crockett. Yeah, I don't know about it. Let's take a listen to President Trump here. Let me switch to this screen. Mental acuity, fitness to serve. Here we go. This should be it.
So I think most of you have seen they released my physical. I did the physical on Friday, and I understand it was a very good report. The numbers were perfect, and I took a cognitive exam, and I would challenge anybody here to meet those marks because I have a perfect mark. Were you impressed by that?
I am impressed. And
How are you impressed by that?
But you're not that surprised, right?
Not surprised at all.
You aren't. That's good. So I think
I would like to
most
see
of you have
Sleepy
seen
Joe
they
take
released-
this exam, and I'd like to see Kamala take this exam, actually. I think that's pretty fair. Anyway, back to Jasmine Crockett. Joey Manorino is not a fan. Says, this is a woman, Jasmine Crockett, who stood by quietly as Joe Biden wandered the halls of the White House naked and confused at night, according to Secret Service. Is that real? Now she wants to talk about fitness to serve? Okay, hold on. Was Biden really skinny walking around the White House? Skinny walking. So there you go. President Trump's looking pretty good. He's lost a lot of that stress weight. It's good for everyone to drop some excessive weight. Red Pill Truth 2024 says a shocking indicator of where we are as a nation is this truth. When you see an American flag on a hat, on a bumper sticker, on clothing, or flying on a home, we know that person or household voted for President Trump. At the core of liberal Marxism is a fervent denial and active campaigns for the destruction of American culture and values. They need to convince people that the country is bad and its deeds are evil so that they can destroy it and replace it with their godless bureaucratic tyranny. Well said. Okay, I just learned about this conspiracy. Have you heard this one from Ninjas Are Butterflies?
Heard about the Mountain Dew conspiracy?
No.
There's always been that
Dew.
conspiracy of Mountain Dew flavors coincide with like big major events. They had something with Maui, and then the Maui fires happened, right? Last year they brought back the pitch black, and then we had like the biggest IT blackout of all time. And there was another one that was a tropical flavor last year, tropical swirl, and then we had all those crazy hurricanes.
Was there one with Code Red?
I can't remember if there was, but then they brought a Star Spangled Splash flavor for 4th of July last year. And then, no joke, that bridge collapsed. Guess what the name of the bridge was called? Francis Scott Key, the guy who wrote the Star Spangled Banner. Isn't that wild?
That's insane.
So they just released a new flavor. Purple Thunder is the new flavor.
Purple Thunder.
Oh, let's
Purple. Oh man, I knew I was gonna sneak that past together.
Purple Rain.
Pepper.
Dude,
Dang it!
pimp it.
I do have the Code Red conspiracy. Code Red was only a few months before 9/11 when it debuted.
No way.
That's insane.
Kind of crazy.
This is nuts.
It's wild, man.
Let's rewind real quick. Mountain Dew is owned by Pepsi, correct?
Yes.
And we do know that Pepsi worked with the CIA that one time
Over and
to
over.
overthrow the Chilean government.
Yeah.
Does the CIA work with PepsiCo?
I mean, I think it's confirmed at this point. I don't
You
think
guys heard it here first.
Have you guys heard about the Mountain Dew conspiracy?
No.
There's always been that conspiracy of Mountain Dew flavors coincide with like big major events. They had something with Maui, and then the Maui fires happened, right? Last year they brought back the pitch black, and then we had like the biggest IT blackout.
All right, so there it goes. That's a wild one. Prince is going to rise from the dead and save the world. My meteorology-loving son says purple or fuchsia is the color they use for EF5 tornadoes. Man, we had a tornado very close, and it was a E3, I think. I was not a fan, man. It ripped through what went and toured the damage, just demolished a bunch of buildings not too far down the road. You know, it is very important to have a basement, people. Yeah, I haven't heard the Mountain Dew conspiracy, but now I'm all about it. Kenyon Lang says, just to confirm, everyone feels tired all the time. no matter how much sleep they get or caffeine they consume, but also has trouble falling asleep and is constantly hungry, but also nauseous with acid reflux and spends every second working or cleaning, yet nothing gets accomplished. Anybody else feel that way? Anybody else feeling that? Everyone feels tired all the time, no matter how much sleep they get or caffeine they consume, but also has trouble falling asleep, is constantly hungry, and also nauseous with acid reflux, spends every second working or cleaning, yet nothing gets accomplished. Okay, that was the main one I wanted to show you there. And make America healthy again. Here's this classic meme of the soldier dropping a grenade down. Trump is dropping the tariff down onto decades of unfair trade deals. Oh, he's such a chaos candidate. Oh, he's so full of chaos. Oh, President Trump is chaotic. We're fixing what the traitors before him have set you up with. We're undoing past damage. Here's a reminder. And once again, these numbers change so quickly, I can't really keep track. But the general thought remains. There are 1,500 newspapers. There are 1,500 newspapers, 1,100 magazines, 9,000 radio stations, 1,500 TV stations, 2,400 publishers owned by only 3 corporations. So, I'm willing to cede the fact that maybe those numbers are a little bit off at this point. But tell me again why you can break up companies, but you can't break up a monopoly of media? Riddle me this, riddle me that. David saying he's tired a lot and doesn't sleep very well. I do sleep very, very well, fairly well. And I can go to sleep fairly well. Tired all the time. They say if we're tired, we got to exercise more. It's like the thing we don't want to do the most is the thing that'll help us most. It kind of gives us that boost. I need to get back to a couple things I have been doing. Maybe not so much lately, but it's summertime. How's your summer body? Look at that. Look at that. That could be cut. That could be ripped a little better. Look at that. Look at that weird neck. What am I doing? Yeah, it's time to get your summer bodies going, everybody. Try to get more energy by exercising. I just read that yesterday. All right, Miss Muckraker here saying, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement can carry out enforcement operations at churches and other places of worship, a federal judge has ruled. President Trump announces he is suing CBS, 60 Minutes, and Paramount for billions. Harris coverage was 84% positive. How could you do that? And Trump coverage was 89% negative. These are all from Muckraking Media. President Trump releases a statement for Holy Week. He says, this Holy Week, Melania and I join in prayer with Christians celebrating the crucifixion and resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, the living Son of God who conquered death, freed us from sin, and unlocked the gates of heaven for all of humanity. President Trump. And if I might have missed it, please show me the comments that were that boldly supportive of Jesus Christ, Christianity from Joe Biden and Barack Obama. There were some. I do recall seeing some, but I don't know if it was that full-throated. Oh, here we go. What is this? Miss Muckraker continues saying one of the world's largest pedo networks, Kid Flicks, has been dismantled in a massive international operation against child exploitation. What? And let's take a look at this Kid Flicks. I'm not familiar with this story. KIDFLIX. Okay, Derek Evans, Edmonton man. Here, let's this is a press release. What am I watching here? Oh God, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. Russia Today reported major child abuse platform dismantled. It's a streaming service that was shut down in international operation, according to a press release. A lot of this is foreign.
In late February of 2025 of this year, NACE, the Northern Alberta Internet Child Exploitation Unit that operates out of Alert, received information from the RCMP indicating that numerous individuals across the world have been identified of accessing a site identified as KidFlix. This site operates on the dark web. During their investigation, they identified a number of users around the world, one of which was identified as residing in Edmonton. Subsequent investigations uncovered enough evidence for us to apply and were granted a search warrant, which we executed on March 10th, 2025. At that time, the accused was placed under arrest and a search warrant was executed at his residence. Based on the overall global nature of the investigation and the aspects of investigating digital crime, we have decided not to release his name at this time. There are still investigations that may be tied in that we are unaware of, and we still have a lot of in-depth examination to do in relation to those devices. We don't want to potentially interfere with any other investigations. This site mimicked the use of common streaming sites, right? You can kind of tell by the name KidFlix what it might be trying to adapt.
Wow. The more of this stuff you can shut down, the better. Thank you for everybody's work on that. Yeah, authorities from 38 countries, including US, Canada, Australia, collaborated a global effort to shut it down. 91,000 abuse. Good God. 91,000 abuse videos. It's just 91,000 instances of abuse, and that's just allegedly a drop in the bucket. What in hell is going on? More than 6,000 hours of disturbing content. Oh my God. There's a question of the day. Could you work in that job on that unit that has to like go through this stuff? No, I don't think so. I couldn't do it. I mean, someone has to work this terrible, 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 terrible job to protect the kids. But you can't unsee that stuff. That is, they're calling this takedown one of the most significant strikes against child abuse content in history. The platform is said to have 1.8 million users worldwide. I am blown away. And we need to go after these people with everything we got. Miss Muckraker reports, Doge reports $382 million in fraudulent unemployment payments since 2020, with California, New York, and Massachusetts accounting for 305 million of it. I did touch on this a couple shows ago, but it's worth noting. California alone is tied to 68% of these fake claims, including 59 million that went to 24,500 claimants over 115 years old, 254 million to 28,000 kids who are aged 1 to 5, and 69 million to 9,700 people with future birth dates. These suggest identity theft or fake claims, which surged during the pandemic when systems were swamped. China is currently exposing all the European luxury brands with TikTok videos, confirming that over 80% of the luxury items being bought at ridiculous prices are made in China and only packaged in Europe. Interesting. Yeah, so this is weird. BBC reporting that Mark Zuckerberg may be forced to sell Instagram due to the FTC's antitrust lawsuit. You know, maybe we will leave an X. Maybe we'll leave a post on that. If Meta might be forced to sell Instagram due to FTC, how is that phrased? FTC antitrust concerns. Why can BlackRock own everything under the sun? What context are we missing? There's a post that should get me in trouble. Only if people are allowed to see it, which I just never assume anybody can see anything that we post. But follow that story with Zuckerberg. That's going to be interesting. Carnivore Aurelius says cysteine from human hair is added to bread. Wood pulp is added to shredded cheese to prevent it from caking. Xanthan gum is bacterial rot. Aluminum, a neurotoxin, is added to baking powders to prevent caking. Canola and cottonseed oils were waste products. Citric acid, used as food preservatives, is synthesized from mold. Fluoride in drinking water isn't pharmaceutical grade. It's a byproduct of phosphate fertilizer manufacturing. This is what they think of us, feeding us literal garbage and calling it food. Criminal referral requests have been formally filed in 7 U.S. states, Arizona and Pennsylvania being the latest, accusing Fauci and others of heinous crimes, including murder, medical coercion, and even terrorism stemming from their COVID-era policies and decisions. Arizona and Pennsylvania have joined Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Missouri, and Oklahoma. The referral letters outline a jaw-dropping list of charges, including murder, negligent homicide, involuntary manslaughter, medical coercion and abuse, kidnapping, human trafficking for forced labor, racketeering, operating a corrupt organization, and terrorism. Go get Fauci. Indict him. Convict him. Period. Yeah, giddy up. Let's go. You know, I woke up having a dream that I was explaining to some goofball about how ridiculous it is to try to criminalize speech. I woke up during that dream, and then I saw this story shortly after.
Here's what people in the UK are dealing with. These are real-time headlines. Here's the first one. Police make 30 arrests a day for offensive online messages. They're building out this base in England. So when people are like, well, that's in England, we're in America, free speech. They're building out this base in the European Union, in the UK, and they're trying to project it, clearly trying to project it out into the United States and to affect us. In the UK, you have the Online Safety Act. That's a world's first, I mean, if you count outside of China. But then the European Union passed the Digital Services Act, and that was more focused in targeting large providers like X, like Facebook and Meta. And this is the headline coming out of the New York Times. This is the Digital Service Act out of the UK. EU prepares major penalties against Elon Musk's X. So it says the fine could surpass $1 billion, one person said, as regulators seek to make an example of X to deter other companies from violating the law, the Digital Services Act. So it's interesting because these laws are written, they're very, it's very, again, I use the word nebulous, these nebulous terms, so they can do this. They can make an example of people if they want to, because it's a sliding scale of speech. Is it hateful? Is it not hateful? What's hateful? I don't know. Your comment was hateful. Trust us. But it's not just going from there. So we have new UK internet policing laws target US online forums. So people seeing all this right now, maybe if you're sitting in the UK, are saying this is too much. I'm just going to turn my computer off. I'm going to go down to the local pub and I'm going to grab myself a beer and have a conversation. Well, you may not be protected there either. Here is the headline. It's closing time for free speech in British pubs. What they're talking about is something called the Employment Rights Act. It's working its way through the UK Parliament.
Come on, Europe. Get your shit together. I don't get involved in European politics very often, but my God, is it such a mess. Fix this. You got to defend Europe, and you have to. How are we supposed to be a greatest ally to Europe if they don't respect the freedom of speech. If you don't allow freedom of speech, what even are you?
Third parties, meaning
while your sovereign nations are being invaded through the Obama colonization implemented through his third term, his third and most honest term of Joe Biden as the puppet, and all of the puppet masters behind the scenes. It's not like only Obama with a magic wand. He's not the only puppet master, but he's been the driving force behind this sovereign nation invasion of the past 20 years. And when people speak out about it, they're throwing them in a gulag. This is freaking madness.
The employers have to protect everyone, including third parties. So not only the people that you employ, but third parties, meaning your patrons at your pub, the people, if you're cutting hair, the people sitting near your hair, you have to protect them from this hate speech. And the hate speech can't cross lines of race, religion, sexual orientation, gender reassignment. This is all in the bill. No one can really say anything about that.
Yes, all the hardcore leftist topics win the day, and you're not allowed to discuss a contrarian view. No countervailing views there. That is just madness, people. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Hello, a human being commented, jumped in here with a nice positive mantra this week. Let all the defense manufacturing CEOs hold hands and pray for peace. I'd love to see some of these wars wind down. I hate seeing unnecessary body bags. Hate it.
That is considered negative or hate speech or hateful. And so that's what's happening. I hate to laugh, but I mean, you can't even, the pubs
I can't
are like
tell a joke. I mean, I would imagine telling a joke now of any kind that pressures any sort of social norm, could get you fined and have your pub shut down. I mean, no joking allowed. Don't get too drunk. Don't get too funny. Don't make fun of the incredible authoritarian pressure we're living under here. Amazing.
What does Keir Starmer have to say? He's the Prime Minister of the UK. He was meeting with Trump and
where is the pressure on this clown?
Vice President J.D. Vance in the White House recently. Listen to what he had to say.
All right.
We do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies. But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension, American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly.
Free speech? What?
We wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
Huh?
Amazing moment.
Right. Free speech. I mean, so just to recap, he's saying we've had free speech for a very long time. We certainly wouldn't want to do something as crazy as reaching across the U.S. and telling you how to use your own speech. Right. Well, it's interesting because I remember speaking to you less than 6 months ago about this headline and this video. UK police commissioner threatens to extradite jail U.S. citizens over online posts. We'll come after you. Yeah. Here's what people in the UK are dealing with. These are real-time headlines. Here's the first one. Police make 30 arrests a day for offensive online messages. They're building out this base in England. So when people are like, well, that's in England, we're in America, free speech. They're building out this base in the European Union, in the UK, and they're trying to project it, clearly trying to project it out into the United States and to affect us. In the UK, you have the Online Safety Act. That's a world's first, I mean, if you count outside of China. But then the European Union passed the Digital Services Act, and that was...
I think that just did a loop to restart again. Yeah, make Europe great again, people. Please. Yeah. And for the people that always talk about President Trump, oh, he's so chaotic. Oh, he's gonna steal your democracy. Okay. By the way, just a reminder, we're not a democracy.
The United States is not a democracy. Our founding fathers were actually very against us being a democracy. And yes, there is an important difference between the two. If we were a democracy, then the majority could decide what is right and wrong. But we don't rule that way in America. We have a constitution that defines how our government is structured and what it can and can't do. The differences and problems with democracy are broken down in this 1966 clip by Dan Smoot.
A constitutional republic, not a democracy. The ideal of a democracy is universal equality. The ideal of a constitutional republic is individual liberty. A democracy always degenerates into dictatorship, which promises government-guaranteed equality and security, but it delivers nothing but poverty and serfdom for the people it robs and rules. America was founded as a constitutional republic to safeguard the liberties of the people against the tyranny of democracy or of one-man dictatorship.
The Electoral College is a safeguard against this majority rule, along with our Constitution, but there's a lot of talk about getting rid of the Electoral College, and that would be a huge mistake. One thing it does is prevent cities from governing our entire country. It ensures that the governed are represented and the government is run by the consent of the governed. Remember this the next time you hear the left talking about the democracy that we live in. The United States...
There you go. Big difference, people. Know the difference. Here's some pleasant, a pleasant way to consider this. Axiomatic enemy of the state says, America is a tyrannical dumpster fire run by a bunch of authoritarian war criminals and pedos with a maxed out credit card. This is being shared from I'm Not Having Fun Anymore 5.0. They're a bit of a black-pilled account. You know, I think there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot that we need to stay on top of. You know, I think there's a lot to be excited about. Now, it doesn't mean we're done. It doesn't mean we just lay back and let everybody run roughshod. But I mean, are we a tyrannical dumpster fire run by a bunch of authoritarian war criminals and pedos with maxed out credit card? Yeah, maybe. I think Trump's fixing some of that. By the way, I do believe the national champion Ohio State Buckeye college football team will be visiting the White House later today. Super excited for that. As an Indians, Cavs, Browns, and Buckeye fan. Thrilla the Gorilla says, now I know why my dad used to wake up at 4 a.m. and just sit in the kitchen table for an hour. Greg Reese here, giving some life advice. I think it's a good one. Do you want more freedom? Easy. Stop asking for things. Produce something of value, and most importantly, learn to humbly unite with your neighbors. Otherwise, learn to be a happy slave. Kentucky Rebel Scum says, permission to live on the king's land? That's property taxes. Permission to hunt the king's game? That's a hunting and fishing license. Permission to petition the king? Permits to parade or protest. Permission to travel the king's road? There's your driver's license. Permission to fly the king's skies? There's your real ID. Now, here's a great joke. It's only a real ID if it comes from the Rial region in France. Otherwise, it's just a sparkling driver's license. That's joke of the day. That is good. Of course, you know, talking about champagne. Scrolling through Twitter for a few hours should provide you with all the evidence that you need to see that government-run education was a terrible mistake. Jason Bassler saying this is exactly why they waited for Trump to enforce the Real ID deadline. His supporters will not only eagerly support it, but actively justify and defend it. Anti-Bolshevik Club says Real ID is a federal program. Who in their right mind wants to give the federal government any more control than they have? After everything we've seen, why would you trust the federal government?
That's why I'm saying they rob you blind and you thank them for it. That's a tragedy. That's a scam. That's why I'm saying this right now. Americans, you don't need a tariff. You need a revolution. For decades, your government and oligarchs only ship your job to China. Not for diplomacy, not for peace, but to exploit cheap laborers. And in the process, they hollowed out your middle class, crushed your working class, and told you to be proud while they sold your future for profit. And yes, China made money, but we used it to build roads, lift millions out of poverty, fund healthcare, raise living standard. We reinvested in our people. My family also benefited from it. What did your oligarchs do? They bought yachts, private jets, mansions with golf course driveways. They manipulate the market, dodge tax. That's why I'm saying They rob you blind and you thank.
Okay, there's the beginning of it again. Okay. There's some good ones in there. Let's hear about Doge.
Is the Doge program targeted at these bureaucrats?
This is Harriet Hageman, representative.
USAID overthrew 8 governments.
It was funded.
Absolutely. So is Antifa.
So
George Soros, USAID.
USAID funded Antifa.
That's right. When your goal is to collapse the system, you're going to collapse the system. When you collapse the system, you don't know how that dust is going to settle.
But you think that Biden was deliberately trying to collapse the system?
I do. What we've seen over the last 10 to 15 years, both in Europe as well as the United States and North America, is mass migration, not immigration. Why that's significant is because what that's allowed these various groups to do is come in and basically set up shop in another country, but bring their own culture and never have to assimilate. The Pakistani rape gangs in England are exactly what I'm talking about.
There's some fantastic footage of you face-to-face with Merrick Garland.
The consequences of the Biden and Mayorkas open border policies. That's Congress's fault. I had Mayorkas in front of me. I told him what a corrupt person I thought that he was. To his face. We know you've lied. You know you've lied. But more importantly, the American public knows that you lied. I said all along, Joe Biden and Mayorkas are the 2 largest human traffickers in U.S. history.
And they need to face treason charges.
They are.
I want to ask if you've changed position on what happened in the 2020 election.
Oh, I think it was rigged, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah. Countervailing view, CISA.gov/rumor control. Because they want you, the countervailing view to Harriet Hageman. That's a good interview, sounds like. Who is reporting this? Actually, I don't have this story. It's not linked to anything I can trust. So let's say Florida teacher fired for what are they technically fired for? Okay, being reported on Pop Crave. Change.org, Pink News. I'm looking for like a site dose. New York Post, I guess. Here, let's share this tab. Where are we getting this lady's name, though? And they just keep saying Florida teacher. Okay, there we go. Florida teacher Melissa Calhoun fired from her job for using her student's preferred name in a classroom without their parents' permission. So calling her a fake name. Or a student the fake name. Governor DeSantis outlawed this. New York Post repeating this. Yeah, teacher secretly using a kid's preferred name, a fake name, a changed name. Here, let's take a listen. Here's some more explanation on Newsmax.
Erica Donalds, chair of the America First Policy Institute and founder of TNAM. Okay, Erica, great to see you as always here. What an interesting case in Florida. Can you walk us through what stands out to you about it?
Well, not much stands out about this case because as a Floridian and a former school board member in Florida, someone who's fought for the parents' rights bill that was violated here, we saw this happen over and over again. That is why it was so important for Florida to take a stand, lead on the parents' rights issue, and put in law that parents have the right to fundamentally direct the upbringing of their children, whether that means their education or their mental health. We see this as a mental health issue.
You, the teachers, work for the parents. You don't dictate how the parents are going to interact with their kid. You guys got it twisted, and that's what lost you the Department of Ed. That's why you lost the Department of Education. Because you thought you were the parents and that the teachers were in charge. You work for the parents. You don't vaccinate without parental consent. You don't go calling them fake names without parental consent. None of it. No grooming, no weirdness. Just teach the kids the basics. Just teach the kids the basics. When they're 18, let them figure it out on their own. Let them figure out what they need. All of the stuff you're not supposed to be getting involved with, handle it once you're done with high school. They killed the goose that laid the golden egg. The teachers' unions went too far.
That is being kept from parents. Instead of the teacher disclosing to parents that the student wanted a different name or a different pronoun to have a conversation with the family and bring them into the fold, the teacher took it upon themselves to side with, if you will, the student over the parent and really violate parents' rights and the law.
So that's what happens.
Bad idea.
The teacher just went around the parents, scooted around the parents, and just called that student by their preferred name based on what they thought their gender identity was. Did not include the parents. That's against policy there in Florida, and she was let go from that position.
That's correct. And 13 other states have also adopted these laws.
Yeah. You got to protect the kids from groomers, from groomer teachers. All right. So this is a real story. U.S. News didn't do anything for me. I don't know Patrick Riley. I don't know errands for parents or whatever. So I wanted to double check and research that with you. There you go. This is video. California high school student Taylor Starling tells state lawmakers she was removed from her cross-country team and replaced with a biological male transfer student. Why did it stop?
Attend morning practices and staying at school until 4:45 each day.
Okay, I guess.
My goal was to attain a varsity spot on my school's Division I CIF team. Not an easy feat, but one I accomplished. Since the start of the season in August, I ran in every varsity race. In late October, the male transfer student was given my spot after not being held to the same strict team requirements as me and the rest of the girls. He did not have to attend practice while my team and I were running 7 miles a day together. After having my spot taken away from me that I earned, I missed out on running with my varsity team in one of the top cross-country invitationals of the season. As a result of this unfair treatment, my teammate Caitlin and I wore shirts that said "Save Girls Sports" and stated that boys and girls are different.
You need to save girls' sports, and boys and girls are different, which is why you separated the sexes in the first place. I can't believe we have to have these goofy conversations with people that pretend they don't understand why that was necessary.
It's common sense. XX does not equal XY.
If in sports, if your chromosomes include a Y in sports, you must compete with guys.
This is not hateful or unkind.
No, it's not hateful or unkind. It's the way it's going to be. Deal with it. That's it. It's just, it's how we do things. You can take your radical ideology elsewhere. I'm not buying it.
This is reality. However, our athletic director...
I've been in sports my whole life. Go out there boxing a woman. What the hell's wrong with these people? Nope, it ain't happening.
Made me remove my shirt and told me it was like wearing a swastika.
Her shirt was like wearing a swastika, according to this.
In front of a Jewish person, and said that I would face disciplinary action if I wore it again. My Title IX and free speech rights as a female matter too.
Unreal.
Why are girls being told that we must sit down and be quiet while boys unfairly get ahead of us in life? Why do boys not have to attend practice and make the sacrifices that us girls make in order to be scholar athletes? Just because those boys believe they are transgender. Girls matter too. Please protect us. Thank you. Good morning, members of the committee.
There you go. Bravo. Bravo to this young lady. Thank you so much. That's the way it's done. We're not tolerating the games. We're not playing the Obama doctrine. We're back to common sense and reality now. That's how we're going to do things. All right, let's skip over to our X feed and run through the news. Of course, this was Nick Sorter reporting that our southern border has been under attack from a variety of threats. The complexity of the current situation requires that our military take a more direct role in securing our southern border than in recent past. This was a quote from Donald Trump in a memo. And I thought I had it right down here. Maybe it's up here. Anyway, they have added 60 feet, 60 yards. What was it? They've added space on the U.S. side of the border that's now U.S. military territory. So if you're sneaking across, you are now trespassing on federal military property. And you can be scooped up and handled the way that it should have always been. You want to come in, go through the front door. I don't want anyone sneaking through the back door. I don't trust anyone doing that. What is this? Florida Tech Board of Trustees issued a statement. It's regarding a James O'Keefe report. They said, regarding the private meeting of faculty, President Niccolo has taken responsibility for his word choice and expressed his personal regret for how his intention to show empathy for concerned employees may have been perceived. This is one where he was bragging about how they're going to keep DEI. They're just going to call it by different names because the administration is too stupid to just look under different names or synonyms to. And they're going to keep running their racist, sexist DEI programs, these illegal, racist, sexist programs. President Nicolo's genuine attempt to reassure uneasy faculty while also highlighting Florida Tech's compliance was misconstrued and distorted through a heavily edited video. Kristen Dragors, chair of the Board of Trustees. Rip says, nothing worse than an apology that isn't actually an apology and is a straight up lie. Hey, sorry, but it's not my fault, and I'm not sorry. It's the reporter's fault. Take a card out of Trump's playbook and release the unedited entire video. So keep your eye on DEI. Secretary Kristi Noem says ICE Boston arrested an illegal Ecuadorian national who's been charged with more than 20 abuses against a minor. Does Boston's mayor, Michelle Wu, think these pedos are above the law? Imagine what our ICE officers could do without sanctuary city policies that protect illegal alien criminals, including predators, murderers, and rapists. Yeah. James O'Keefe, of course, also going in on Matthew Termond, the board member who fired him from Project Veritas. He's claiming that this guy sends pornographic, unhinged messages to him on a weekly basis. We actually had to kick a guy out of our fantasy football league because he was doing that. And that was really weird. You're right, David. Where is the common sense? It seems like there is none. Just a lot of sick people, like you said. Yeah, we had to kick a guy out because he was sending really inappropriate messages. It was weird. One message was of James O'Keefe nailed to a crucifix. That's why he posted private medical records of intimate texts of employees and loved ones who he wanted to harm. The messages obtained from devices of employees. He wanted to carve out James O'Keefe's heart and eat it in front of him. This man is afraid because he's been subpoenaed. He has much to hide. He'll be brought to justice, so help him God. So keep your eyes peeled on that. Now, here's the video I've wanted to talk about. I actually did have this queued up on Saturday, but I think I queued it up on our Facebook feed, but I didn't have it sitting in front of me, so I didn't get into it. I've been looking forward to this conversation since I heard it being proposed. So let's break this down. I think this is an important conversation. Comedy leading the way.
And now for what I know you've all been waiting for, I'd like to give you my book report on my visit to the White House. Okay, as you know, 12 days ago I had dinner with President Trump, a dinner that was set up by my friend Kid Rock, because we share a belief that there's got to be something better than hurling insults from 3,000 miles away. And let me first say that to all the people who treated this like it was some kind of summit meeting, you're ridiculous. Like I was going to sign a treaty or something. I have no power. I'm a fucking comedian. And he's...
Comedians have a lot of power. Traditionally, the court jester was the only person who was allowed to speak truth to power. You were the only person that could tell the king some hard truths. And sometimes, like in Game of Thrones, you still couldn't escape the ire of the angry king. But no, comedians have a power. Look at how well paid comedians are running these shows. Jimmy Kimmel, Bill Maher, John Oliver. Run down the whole list of political pundits that are comedians. And look at how many of them have been rabid anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, anti-common sense people for decades. Some people play it down the middle. Maybe Leno was the best at that. Letterman was okay with it. He's kind of a raging lefty, but I never watched Letterman as much. I just thought Leno, the joke writing was funnier. I liked Letterman for some things. I loved his top 10 list. That was great, but no. I mean, Bill's selling himself short. No, you're not negotiating a peace treaty, but you do have power.
1,000 miles away. And let me first say that to all the people who treated this like it was some kind of summit meeting, you're ridiculous. Like I was going to sign a treaty or something. I have no power. I'm a fucking comedian, and he's the most powerful leader in the world. I'm not the leader of anything, except maybe a contingent of centrist-minded people who think there's got to be a better way of running this country than hating each other every minute.
Well, Bill, you've been doing it. You've been doing the bidding of the Democrat Party for the past 20 years, running cover for the Obama doctrine and all of their terrible backward ideas. So now you believe that we should... I struggle because there's concepts. There's concepts in psychology, sociology, like you're not supposed to criticize someone who's doing the right thing. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to praise if it took them too long to get there. You need to reward the positive behavior. You need to reinforce the positive behavior you'd like to see more of. So now is not the time for me to yell at Bill Maher going, what were you doing for 20 years running cover for the Obama doctrine? Like a barking seal. Just a barking seal. Oh, Obama. Oh, the Democrats. Oh, the New World Order. Oh, the deep state. Oh, I love it. I mean, you were lockstep. Like they gave you the talking points. Now, Jimmy Kimmel's the worst. I'll give you that. Jimmy Kimmel is by far the worst. What ABC, ESPN, Disney have done to Jimmy Kimmel, he actually used to be funny. He's just mean-spirited and bitter now. Same with Stephen Colbert. Isn't he on ABC too? Anyway, by the way, I just find it super interesting that my lighting is better than his lighting. Maybe you could say my lighting's too bright. Here, let me dial it back. Ooh, that softened it a bit. But it's, I don't know. His lighting seems very, very muted. Okay, he continues.
Except maybe a contingent of centrist-minded people who think there's got to be a better way of running this country than hating each other every minute.
There is a better way than hating each other every minute. And if you just step back from the Trump derangement syndrome, because I think Bill Maher has had Trump derangement syndrome as bad as anybody who's not Jimmy Kimmel, as bad as anybody else out there. Bill Maher has hook, line, and sinker been hating people nonstop and not objectively, accurately describing President Trump, his supporters, and his policies.
Of centrist-minded people who think there's got to be a better way of running this country than hating each other every minute. So,
good point. I agree. Thank you for that. And thank you, Kid Rock, for saying you should come out. And Bill's like, And Trump was very reluctant to this. He said, why would I what am I going to, I don't really want to. President Trump did not seem super interested in doing this, but his friend Kid Rock asked him. And this is what you're supposed to reach across the aisle and find some common ground and make some sense work, make some stuff work, some common sense stuff work. Problem is the progressive wing that's staged a coup to overthrow the Democrat Party since Obama 21% approval rating kind of says it all, doesn't it? There is no negotiating with them. There's nothing that they are about that we want. So you're at an impasse. But let's imagine America's a 50-50 nation. We're not. We're like 75-25. Let's imagine it's a 51-49 razor thin margin. Could we be Trump? Could we be Hillary? Let's get the SAVE Act in place. Let's get rid of all of the fake balloting, and let's see what really happens. I think the 21% approval rating is a lot closer than 50%. Mark my words. I'd give the left wing 25-30% maximum because they're so far off the reservation. Anyway.
Thank you. So,
but that's why you can't negotiate with them. You, Bill Maher, could join a growing list of people who would have never considered being Republican ever before, like Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard. Run down the list of people who had to flee the divisive deep state Democrat Party and jump on the sane train. The sane train. Whoop, whoop. Jump on the sane train, Bill Maher. Glad to have you, albeit 20 years too late.
okay, so meet up in person. Maybe it'll be different. Spoiler alert, it was. First good sign, before I left for the Capitol, I had my staff collect and print out this list of almost 60 different insulting epithets that the president has said about me. Things like stupid, dummy, lowlife dummy, sleazebag, sick, sad, stone cold crazy.
He's earned a lot of these.
Guy, fired like a dog. His show is dead. There's 60. I brought this to the White House because I wanted him to sign it, which he did.
Now, hold on. I thought it was reported that he showed it to him as kind of like a, maybe not a gotcha, but look, you wonder why. Like, look at all this shit you're talking about me. And I thought he took it and signed it as a comedic gesture. Bill Maher is asking that he signed it. Okay, so Bill Maher's story is that he asked the president to sign it. It's still hilarious.
Dead. There's 60. I brought this to the White House because I wanted him to sign it, which he did.
I mean, come on, that's pretty funny.
Which he did with good humor. And I know as I say that, millions of liberal sphincters just tightened. Oh my God, Bill, are you going to say something nice about him? What I'm going to do is report exactly what happened. You decide what you think about it. And if that's not enough pure Trump hate for you, I don't give a fuck. Yeah. So
it's happening. The pure Trump hate is played out. You've lost your audience. And that's what a lot of these people are starting to do now. They realize they don't have an audience, minus the USAID AstroTurf. There is no audience for the wacky left-wing crap. It's all AstroTurf through ABC, ESPN, Disney, MSNBC, CNN. AstroTurfed. Stolen money, CIA, deep state, Operation Mockingbird. Lies. Not representing what the American people think, feel, believe, or want. I don't know when our deep state decided to attack America, attack American values, attack everything that makes us great, and try to turn us into some third world hellhole. But it sure is nice that we can see it now. It sure is nice that we can identify it and figure out what to do about it. That makes me incredibly happy. So, Bill Maher's back. Well, Bill Maher's always been Bill Maher. And he's always made some good points on both sides. He would steer away from the party occasionally. And you appreciate someone that can do that. I think someone's a lot more intellectually honest if they can say, no, I don't. You want a man wrestling a woman? No. You want a man spiking a volleyball into a woman's face? No, you're out of your fucking mind. You want to do what? No, we're not doing that. Now, some of these other things, yeah, I'm in support of these 3 policies, but like that stuff, no. But the Democrats require 100% compliance, even with the crazy shit, especially with the crazy shit. In Orwell's 1984, they said you had to say 2 + 2 = 5. And it wasn't enough to believe. It wasn't enough to say 2 + 2 = 5. You needed to believe that the lie was true. That's the Obama doctrine. And I think we're going to uncover exactly why in the next couple of years. But Bill Maher continues.
And if that's not enough pure Trump hate for you, I don't give a fuck. So
imagine being in this audience as a Trumpster and you actually get to clap for a few common sense things. Kudos.
So, no, I didn't go MAGA. And to the president's credit, there was no pressure to. After we left the Oval Office, he showed me the little room off the office, you know, the one where Clinton used to.
Yeah.
Okay. The blowjob room. Okay. Well, not anymore. That's where they keep the merch now.
Is it really?
It is. And
name a president that's had merch. Trump is the first merch president. Oh, Trump, he fails at every business he's ever done. Shut up. Said, whined and complained at and spoken like somebody who hasn't been successful at anything. Realizing you got to fail 100 times sometimes to get a hit. Yeah, that's what it means to be the man in the arena. Covered in mud and dust, blood, battered and bruised. Yeah, of course you're going to have some swings and misses, some losses, some strikeouts. Donald Trump is easily America's first merchandising president. I don't remember any Biden merch. Zero Biden merch.
And he gave me a bunch of hats, but he didn't ask me to take a picture in one, which I appreciated. The guy I met,
that's good,
is not the person who the night before the dinner shit tweeted a bunch of nasty crap about how he thought this dinner was a bad idea and what a deranged asshole I was. I read it and thought, oh, what a lovely way to welcome someone to your house.
This is what I was talking about. When President Trump was confronted with this idea and it was suggested, he didn't really understand. He didn't see the point. He thought Bill Maher was beyond saving. You know, guys, I get this all the time. You know, I have conversations with people and it's like, well, who are you even talking to? Why are you even doing a show? What's the point? Nobody will ever change their mind. I remember an old episode of Glenn Beck, and maybe it was a reoccurring theme, but I distinctly remember one episode when he was back after CNN on Fox during the housing crash or sometime around there, Tea Party time. And he's just like, I'm done. Like, the time for trying to convince people is over. Now it's time to just speak. I just have to speak to the people that are already on board. I don't have time. Like, I'm not going to convince these other people to change their minds. It'll never happen. I'm not wasting my energy trying to do it. Well, it's like Bill Maher said. He gave him a bunch of hats. He didn't say, hey, put one on and take a picture so I can say, hey, I converted Bill Maher into Trump. Yeah, look, Bill Maher's MAGA now, won him over. It's like, he didn't win him over. He won him over by not trying to play any of those stunts and games. And so the people that, no one's ever going to change their mind. There's no point. Name any good thing that's happened from, it's like, oh, all these people are guilty as shit and none of them face accountability. What's the point? Why do you even bother? Why does it matter? And there's days I get these questions from various places. And I'm like, maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. It's my path. I don't know. I think it matters. I think as long as I have breath, things matter. I'm well-read, intelligent, funny, entertaining, clever, insightful. I have a lot to offer the conversation. When you tune in to watch somebody every day, it's not just their production value, and it's not just the segments that they cover. It's, I like spending time with people's brains for a while. And if I'm cleaning up around the house, if I'm working on something else, I'm doing dishes, or I'm mowing the lawn, I'll put a podcast in. You're spending time with that person's brain. You're listening to how they react to things, how they, I drew this parallel. It reminded me of this other time, that this other thing. And yeah, so that does mean that sometimes I'm not going to have the 45-minute tight show. I can only do 60 minutes. I can only do, and that's fine if that's how you're wired. That's cool. That's totally fine. I'm not knocking that. But for me, I unpack things. I add layers to stuff. I'll do live research. We'll, take your questions and stuff. But we need more of these conversations from people like Bill Maher and President Trump. We need to get away from, I don't like that this guy is helping President Trump. Let's firebomb his product. That's domestic terrorism, and that's who the deep state Democrats are. That's who they were 4 years ago with the Summer of Love riots that burned America down. That mentality has got to be nipped in the bud. But President Trump, when this idea was floated, he's like, I really didn't like the idea much, and I don't much like it now, or don't like it much now. He didn't see the point because he was probably in one of those doom scrolling, black-pilled phases, or he had somebody with him. Their negative energy filtered in, and you said, I don't get the point. This isn't going to accomplish anything. That type of vibe. Well, Kid Rock had a different vibe, and look, it seems like something good came from this.
But when I got there, that guy wasn't living there. Now, does Trump want respect? Of course. Who doesn't? My friend said to me, what are you going to wear to the White House? I said, I don't know, but I'm not going to dress like Zelensky. I'll tell you that. But, okay.
Yeah, don't do that.
Just for starters, he laughed.
Although you weren't asking for handouts either.
Just for starters, he laughs. I'd never seen him laugh in public, but he does, including at himself.
I have.
And it's not fake. Believe me, as a comedian of 40 years, I know a fake laugh when I hear it. And I thank you for them. No.
That applause line, like that should be, you should have a sarcastic amount of fake applause button for that and ask the crowd to, try to have the most obnoxious fake laughs ever. But look, Bill Maher thought Orange Man demon, and he's kind of winning. He's been won over by Trump's humanity a little bit here.
Believe me, as a comedian of 40 years, I know a fake laugh when I hear it. And I thank you for them. But, okay, example. In the Oval Office, he was showing me the portraits of presidents, and he pointed to Reagan and said, in all seriousness, the best thing about him, his hair. I said, well, there was also that whole bringing down communism thing, waiting for the button next to the Diet Coke button to get pushed and I go through the trap door.
Trump famously has a Diet Coke button. He just presses it. I'd like a Diet Coke delivered, please. Thank you. And by the way, that's not a knock on Reagan because he had great hair. Like, it's okay if that's the number one thing about him. He was a Hollywood actor. He had a perfect look, for that era. It wasn't necessarily the knock on Reagan that you thought it might have been.
But no, he laughed. He got it. I said to him at one point, Mr. President, the dog, that's unusual in the White House. He said, well, a lot of the presidents, they had a dog for political reasons. I said, no, people love dogs. That's what that is. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's true.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's true. Oh God, I had another thought. I wanted him to finish it up, and then I hang on.
But no, he laughed. He got it. I said to him at one point, Mr. President.
Oh, that's what it was. Have you ever heard the Norm Macdonald doghouse skit? Please look it up.
Dog. That's unusual in the White House. He said, well, a lot of the presidents, they had a dog for political reasons. I said, no, people love dogs. That's what that is. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's true. I'm telling you what happened. At one point, we were walking through his amazing, it is an amazing tour of the whole house. And I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but it must have been something with the 2020 election, because I know he used the word lost. And I distinctly remember saying, wow, I never thought I'd hear you say that. He didn't get mad?
He wasn't allowed to continue. You can lose a game that's rigged against you. I watched the Ohio State Buckeyes get robbed a couple of times in the playoffs, by the way.
He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about...
Whoa, hold on. Let me rewind that.
Who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because...
Taking it as a positive that this person exists. Yeah. Holy shit, are we lucky this person exists. He's not a god. We don't worship at the altar. But oh my God. Seems like some of the things that we're doing are gangbusters. Fantastic. About freaking time. And yes, he is a deal maker. He will fly into the demilitarized zone and meet with Kim Jong-il or Un? Kim Jong-un, not ill. Il, not Un. Un, not ill. Kim Jong. Diplomacy. Cutting deals. Negotiating better terms for America and Americans. All right. Good for Bill. I like this comment.
Matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy. Bob, Kid Rock, told me the night before, he said, if you want to get a word in edgewise, you're going to have to cut him off. He'll just go on. Not at all. I've had so many conversations with prominent people who are much less connected, people who don't look you in the eye, people who don't really listen because they just want to get to their next thing, people whose response to things you say just doesn't track, like, what? None of that with him. And he mostly steered the conversation to, what do you think about this? I know, your mind is blown, so's mine. There were so many moments when I hit him with a joke or contradicted something, and no problem. At dinner, he was asking me about the nuclear situation in Iran in a very genuine, hey, I think you're a smart guy, I want your opinion sort of way. And I said, well, obviously you're privy to things about it I'm not, but for what it's worth, I thought the Obama deal was worth letting play out, because we made Iran destroy 98% of the uranium, and they were 15 years away from a bomb. And then I said to him, but we got rid of that. You got rid of that. He didn't get mad or call me a left-wing lunatic. He took it in. I told him I thought parts of his plan for Gaza were wacky, but that I had supported him in the idea that Gaza could be Dubai instead of hell.
Wouldn't you rather have it as the, what did they call it? The Mediterranean, Casablanca, or what do they call it? The Vegas of the Mediterranean, the Atlantic City of the Mediterranean. Everybody says it's an open air hellhole. It's an open air prison. Well, don't you want to think of something better than what it currently is? Yeah.
Parts of his plan for Gaza were
See it, envision it, build it.
But that I had supported him in the idea that Gaza could be Dubai instead of hell.
And like that AI thing of Trump and Bibi sitting at, like, A lot of that was to encourage the Middle Eastern countries to figure out how to rebuild it, or these two are going to rebuild it. 5-dimensional chess, people.
I told him he was wrong when he tweeted the night before that I was critical of all things Trump. Not true. Check the tapes. Moving Israel's embassy to Jerusalem, loved it. The border did need to be controlled. I'm glad the cops are getting their morale back. DEI had gone too far. Biological men shouldn't be playing women's sports. Europe should pay for their defense. And of course, it makes sense that Arab countries should take in Arab refugees, like the million Syrians who wound up in Germany when Saudi Arabia took none. He said to me, "You're right, they took none."
You're right, they took none. I feel like his Trump impersonation is going to change now. Now that he's met, because I do an elevated Trump on the campaign stop, like behind a lectern, speaking to a crowd. Trump. I got to spend some time figuring out how to do the reserve Trump, the laid back, more kind of calm, grandfatherly Trump.
I said, well, you should remind your boyfriend in Saudi Arabia that the next time you see him. He laughed. I never felt I had to walk on eggshells around him. And honestly, I voted for Clinton and Obama, but I would never feel comfortable talking to them the way I was able to talk with Donald Trump.
Did you catch that? Voted for Clinton and Obama, but he would have never felt comfortable talking to them the way that he talked to Trump. That is crucial to making deals, policy decisions.
He laughed. I never felt I had to walk on eggshells around him.
That's
and
big
honestly,
right here.
I voted for Clinton and Obama, but I would never feel comfortable talking to them the way I was able to talk with Donald Trump.
That is wild. Because if you're talking about, it doesn't matter what person's like as a statesman, at a dinner, you care about how they are as a statesman. Well, here's how they are as a statesman.
That's just how it went down. Make of it what you will. Me, I feel it's emblematic of why the Democrats are so unpopular these days. He was even okay when I checked him on the orangutan lawsuit.
I don't remember that.
He was. No, he said.
I vaguely remember that.
To Dana White, Bill said my father was an orangutan, and I really love my father. And I said, well, Mr. President, I did that because I didn't like what you were doing regarding Obama's birth origins. I thought that was low. Again, no anger, just a little smile, as if to say, yeah, I get it.
However, that Obama story. I've never really released my report. I made like 150 phone calls and tried to track down who actually confirms eligibility requirements for the Democrat and Republican parties, libertarian parties. Is it the Electoral College who actually sees the document and what's released, a certificate of live birth versus a birth certificate? Never talked about it because it was the most divisive issue on earth. If you can remember back, that was like the most taboo topic ever, let alone how he self-described in the Harvard Law Review. But okay, I take the point.
The most surreal part of the whole night was when I got home. I flew back right after the dinner, and I'm in bed watching 60 Minutes from the night before. And there's Trump in one of their stories, standing at a podium in a room that looked to me like one of the rooms and places we'd just been in. And he's ranting, disgusting, you're a terrible person. And I'm like, who's that guy? What happened to Glinda the Good Witch?
Glinda the Good Witch.
And why can't we get the guy I met to be the public guy? And I'm not saying it's our responsibility to do that. It's not. I'm just reporting exactly what I saw over 2.5 hours. I went into the mine, and that's what's down there. A crazy person doesn't live in the White House. A person who plays a crazy person on TV a lot lives there, which I know is fucked up. It's just not as fucked up as I thought it was. And I have no illusions now that I'm back to work at my job that he might start a new list.
Yeah, there's the genuine. So he's trying real hard to hold his smiles in. Yeah, as a performer, as a speaker, as a stand-up, how you comport yourself is very important. Bill Maher has been doing this for 40 years, 35 years. That might be right there. Let me zoom in on him. That might be the first time he broke character and let a laugh in a place where maybe he wasn't trying
Start a new list.
And you know why? Because it's so fucking absurd. Because it's so silly. But he knows how important of a document that is. He knows it's the world's most powerful man having an extended dinner and conversation with him, trying to break some bread. And it is. It makes you feel good. I haven't met President Trump yet. I would love to. I hope to soon. Interview him. I'm still waiting for my press credentials from the White House. We submitted back in January. Still waiting. So either this Trump White House is only... Maybe this Trump White House is only going to give press credentials to the 20 or 30 pre-approved biggest names, which is essentially the new mainstream media. Now the lying legacy media has been outed. Yeah, I would like to meet President Trump. I intend to, hope to. Absolutely. But having that document signed by Trump, and it's absurd, it's funny, it's surreal, it's endearing in kind of a way, it's validating. You know, you talk about 10 things you could hang up on your wall. That'll be hung up on your wall. That's a conversation starter. That's a conversation piece. I think it's great. I think it's hilarious. I really do. And he did too, because that was the biggest smile you got from him. Breaking character right here.
That I'm back to work at my job, that he might start a new list. Because I don't have a good feeling and will be critical about a lot of what he's doing. The trade war and disappearing people, ruling by decree, threatening judges, gutting the government with glee.
Yeah, gutting the government with glee. We're 36 trillion in debt. We have to. Disappearing people. Stop it. You've got to remove these violent, illegal alien invaders. Disappearing people. All right. Yeah, you don't want a single case of something to go through the cracks. I do agree on that. But can you acknowledge the 99% efficacy without only focusing on the 1%? Can you at least offer both sides of, we are really grateful to get rid of all these monsters who are preying on American citizens off of our streets. But we have to double, triple down on making sure that not a single person is wrapped up in this erroneously. Say both things. You got to say both. You cannot only focus on the bad because he's doing a lot of good. And like my surgeon said, sometimes you got to crack a couple eggs to make an omelet.
Because I don't have a good feeling and will be critical about a lot of what he's doing. The trade war.
The trade war is fantastic because America has been taken advantage of for decades and decades. We have to shake the box. We have to reconfigure. Break the Lego pieces apart to build something that makes sense, because what he inherited is some trash, and we've been suffering for it. Our middle class has been gutted. Energy prices have been through the roof. Inflation has been insane because of government spending. Yes, I know Trump was a part of some of that, but yes, COVID put a massive dent into that. Only exacerbated by Biden's time in there. So I'm fine with the tax shakeups, the tariff shakeups for sure. The trade war, yeah, either you win or you lose, or you find something equitable. We've been getting taken advantage of and losing for as long as I can remember, since NAFTA.
Disappearing people.
disappearing people. Come on, you got to be more. Don't be that disingenuous on that.
Ruling by decree.
Ruling by decree? I mean, I need some examples of what you're talking about. He was elected by the people and he's making decisions.
Threatening judges.
Threatening judges. Judges are overstepping their bounds. They are not elected by the people. They are not in charge of the country. If a judge wants to take something up to the Supreme Court, then let them go that way without issuing temporary injunctions. This shouldn't be something that local judges can stop, because it's a continuation of the lawfare campaign to stall and distract Trump from seeking his agenda. And his agenda is an America First agenda that puts more money back in our pockets, gets more monstrous demons out of our damn country, and it makes us stronger on the world stage. All things that the globalists, the New World Order, the deep state Democrat, all things that they hate.
Gutting the government with glee.
Yeah, you gut the government with glee when you're $36 trillion in debt. Anything non-essential has to go. And we got to get our fiscal house in order. He's the first guy I've seen in a long time, probably since Newt Gingrich, working with President Bill Clinton to balance the budget to get some of this under control. I don't like the spending bills being as large as they are. I'm very conflicted on it. I said that I will temporarily, reluctantly support it, but I will ask for that reduction next year. Get a big war chest for year one, implement a lot of things that you want to get done, but then dial it back. That's a tough thing for anyone to do. But I think there needs to be repercussions, ramifications for Congress. If you don't pass a balanced budget, you don't get retirement.
But I also think he now understands I have a job to do, or at least he did on this night, because he said to me early on that he'd seen our last episode, which was the Friday before this dinner. And he said, I thought maybe you'd be nice, but you hit me really hard. I did, because I'm not going to pull my punches that presidents get to propose a third term for themselves. He understood.
Yeah, I mean, you can. You just got to, change the law that made that so. Any law can be changed if it has the consent of the governed. That would open up to Trump v. Obama. Ooh.
That, and without animus. That doesn't mean he's not going to try to do it.
And by the way, if we don't have term limits for Congress, why are we doing it for presidents?
At one point, I said to him, you're scaring people. Do you really want to be scaring your own citizens so much? And I know now you're all saying, and what did he say to that? Honestly, I don't remember. But it wasn't, okay, I'll stop. So MAGA fans, don't worry. Your boy gave me nothing. Just hats. Hats and a very generous amount of time and a willingness to listen and accept me as a possible friend, even though I'm not MAGA, which was the point of the dinner. My favorite part of the whole night was we were standing in the blowjob room.
He got a nightcap?
We were.
Who was standing? Who was kneeling, Bill?
And he said, you know, I've heard from a lot of people who really like that we're having this dinner. Not all, but a lot. And I said, same. A lot of people told me they loved it, but not all. And we agreed. The people who don't even want us to talk, we don't like you. Don't talk, as opposed to what? Writing the same editorial for the millionth time and making 25-hour speeches into the wind?
Yep.
Really, that's what liberals have? He takes the piss out of everybody else and we can hold ours? Okay, that's my report. You can hate me for it, but I'm not a liar. Trump was gracious and measured, and why he isn't that in other settings, I don't know, and I can't answer, and it's not my place to answer.
He is in some.
I'm just telling you what I saw, and I wasn't high.
Now, that might be the first part of this episode I don't believe.
Damn, missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity. Anyway, I've been waiting to watch this for a couple days. I know it dropped, and I've seen a clip or two, and I've heard other people discuss it. But anyway, that was my live reaction to it.
And now for what
The name of our show, I know today it says the TNAM AM Show, but let me switch the graphic up here. It's the Agree to Disagree Show. That's the not Landmark, Anchor podcast. The Agree to Disagree Show has been my, what am I trying to say? Not Landmark. Cornerstone. The Agree to Disagree Show has been my show since the inception of the New American Media. We can disagree. We can agree to disagree and just move along. We don't need to keep regurgitating and, we don't need to overdo it on things where we disagree. Just let it be, move along. Let it be, move along. Say your piece and move along. It doesn't have... I actually bailed on dinner this weekend, with a couple, because they have been consumed by rabid left-wing talking points. And they always bring it up and they always turn it into an issue and it's always uncomfortable. I've been accused of doing that too. You're not supposed to have conversations in mixed company. See, I just disagree. I can talk to anybody that I disagree with. I expect a modicum of civility. Keep it mostly civil, yeah. That's just common courtesy. You can agree to disagree. Let's have the talk. I'm not scared to talk about anything with anyone. Does that mean it's a good idea? I have really pulled back from having conversations because I think there's maybe more people now than there ever have been who are completely unhinged. That's not my fault. That's your fault. But yeah, I recently pulled back from an opportunity to hang out with some people that they brought it on themselves. Like they're not pleasant to be around. And they're backing the 21% favorable radical Marxist, Leninist, communist, socialist, Democrat party. That's hard to get around. But yes, I agree that we should be able to agree to disagree. I'm pointing at our logo on the, hang on, this is not working well. There it is. Oh, there it is. Everything's backward. The Agree to Disagree show in that corner there. More conversations, please. More conversations are needed in this country, not fewer. And the left needs to be able to have conversations without shrieking. All right, let's get to the rest of the news and we will wrap it up for today's episode. The Quartering is reporting that this is the man who firebombed Josh Shapiro and his family as they slept. Oh, really? A woke psycho firebombs liberal Governor Josh Shapiro. What is this? Not a MAGA, so this would be put down the memory hole. Now, hold on. What is this? Is this Cody Balmer is the guy? Registered socialist? Got about 27 mail-in ballots? What? Cody Balmer, they're saying this guy is. He's not Democrat or Republican. Anyway. Saying he's not MAGA. But yeah, you should denounce firebombing someone's house, of course. Just like you denounce firebombing a Tesla. Use your words, people. Now, this is RFK's wife. President Trump walks past and she gives him the... I'll scroll through. There's a video explaining kind of what happened there. As Trump came out to UFC... By the way, here's a perfect instance where YouTube would try to take that Kid Rock song playing in the background and say that it's violating copyright claims. But the story is covering the crowd reaction to the president walking in, and if you have to silence and censor the audio, you missed out on the story that we're covering, which is the crowd reaction. Everyone with the cell phone out. cheers and applause, lots of volume. And that's covered under fair use to be discussed by the original unique commentary. Incidents just like this. I mean, the president gets a hero welcome and he comes out there. Being loved by the people. Lots of smiles. Here we go. And that's a heck of an entrance. There you go, walking out, and that is to the Kid Rock song. And of course, that Kid Rock song is a Metallica song. You know that. But Jim Ferguson said Facebook just took down the video President Trump's epic UFC 314 entrance after it had 150,000 views in just 10 minutes. Yeah, that happened to me. 150,000 views in 10 minutes from John McAfee, my interview with him. And then they zapped it, and then they demonetized and censored my account. Oh, they didn't like that. The video shows thousands of people on their feet, the arena erupting, USA, USA, echoing throughout the stadium. It means that they don't fear Trump because of politics. They fear him because people love him. The energy is real. The momentum is unstoppable. The movement is alive. That's why you cover this. And President walked past Bobby Kennedy's wife. Get to that in a second. Catherine Herridge says, this is the one Russiagate binder record that you should not miss. Buried in this 2016 expense report for British spy and dossier author Christopher Steele is an important data point. Steele's reporting is corroborative of intel we received from an FGI, foreign government information, that predicated our investigation. To date, we have not received intel from other sources that so closely tracks to the predicate. What exactly was the Russia collusion probe predicate? We know the uncorroborated dossier was wrongly used by the FBI to secure surveillance warrants for a Trump campaign aide. And let me add, that means that you can get access to the people that are in their contacts list. So if you get a campaign aide, you get Trump, you get illegal surveillance. Or it can be argued at least. And of course it was. That was the whole point. The Russiagate report, well, the whole point was to get as much intel as you could. Cherry on top, can you get Trump? The Russiagate reporting will never be complete until all records about its origins are public. So, Cash, Gabbard, release all of the documents. Former LSU wide receiver Kyren Lacy dies by his own hand just days before his court date for negligent homicide.
He loved to garden.
This is the guy. So this athlete was arrested on January 13 after a warrant was issued due to a December 17 car crash that killed a 78-year-old U.S. Marine veteran, Herman Hall, in Louisiana. Prosecutors allege Lacy caused the head-on collision while speeding and then fled the scene. God, that's the same thing that happened to that Ruggs guy out of Alabama when he was on the Raiders. This Lacy was charged with negligent homicide, hit-and-run driving with serious injury or death, and reckless operation with accident. Released on a $151,000 bond.
He loved to garden. He loved to ride his bike. He used to ride his bike like 28 miles a day. I don't know. He just told great stories. He loved his family. He loved his friends. She said, "We just got in a wreck." I said, "You just got in a wreck? What are you talking about?" She said, "Yeah, we got in a head-on collision. The car's totaled." And I was like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." She's like, "My chest hurts, but maybe it's from the seatbelt or the airbag." And I was like, "Okay, well, how's Dad?" And she said, "Well, he's fine. He's complaining that his back hurts." And I was like, "Okay." She's like, "Well, I have to go." And so she hangs up, and I was like, so then she calls me back, and she said, "Hey, they're gonna airlift your dad to UMC." I was like, "Wait, what? Airmed? What are you talking about? You said he was okay." She's like, "Oh, well, he will. He'll be fine." So apparently she was in shock.
Anyway, that's the human cost of this. And that's a sports story that I could have covered at the top. It's gross. It's sad. You really got to work with athletes to slow down with their driving. Henry Ruggs, I think the guy's name was. Ruggs was the last name of the receiver from Alabama who did the same thing and ended the life of somebody and ruined his career. So yeah, he offed himself in a vehicle from an apparently self-inflicted wound. All right, Ann Vandersteel reporting. Someone donated to Jasmine Crockett's campaign over 50 times to the tune of $870,000. And the donor didn't even know that they were donating. Now we have to investigate to see if Jasmine should be expelled from Congress. Here are the facts, according to Ann Vandersteel. Act Blue is a money laundering scheme. Democrats are a domestic terror group. Jasmine Crockett is a criminal and a fraud. Again, where are the arrests? We say that every day on our show. Where are the arrests? Nothing is going to change until something changes. Vigilant Fox reporting this. Injecting newborns with things for a thing that they can't catch. Hep B. It's required to attend public school in 47 states, but it's only spread through blood, sex, or sharing needles. So why are babies getting it? I mean, you should be allowed to ask any question about health without repercussions, without fear for me to put countervailing views on, telling you to go to cdc.gov, who.int, and cisa.gov/rumor control. At the bottom of the screen, by the way. We should be allowed to talk about anything. Stephen Miller giving a masterclass on the role of the President of the United States. This bears repeating.
You're tempting me to say some very harsh things about some of our media friends. Yes, it is true that many of the people in this room for 4 years failed to cover the fact that Joe Biden was mentally incompetent and was not running the country. It is also true that many people in this room who have used this talking point that Elon is not elected fail to understand how government works. So I'm glad for the opportunity for a brief civics lesson. A president is elected by the whole American people. He's the only official in the entire government that is elected by the entire nation, right? Judges are appointed, members of Congress are elected at the district or state level. Just one man. And the Constitution, Article 2, has a clause known as the vesting clause, and it says the executive power shall be vested in a president, singular. The whole will of democracy is imbued into the elected president. That president then appoints staff to then impose that democratic will onto the government. The threat to democracy, indeed the existential threat to democracy, is the unelected bureaucracy of lifetime tenured civil servants who believe they answer to no one, who believe they can do whatever they want without consequence, who believe they can set their own agenda no matter what Americans vote for.
Something you might want to keep in mind. Yeah, he's been really good, Stephen Miller. Let's check this piece out here. Is the audio?
So I think it's a great milestone, not only for the Army, for the community. I think that it's a milestone, and it's a great one in general. Not only being the first female commander of Fort McCoy, but being the first minority that commands this installation. I think that as a society, we are looking to integrate our society and work better with each other. And I think that showing the public that we could have diversity in every, part of our society is an important thing.
So there she is. But Colonel Shayla Baez Ramirez assumed command of Fort McCoy Garrison in Wisconsin in 24. She's a political activist, according to I Meme, Therefore I Am, who refuses to display the official photographs of the Secretary of Defense and the President. You see up here on the wall, these are blacked out, and one's empty. So 3 of them, it looks like. So the real question is, how long before she's relieved of command? I mean, does this person meet height and weight standards, according to some of the comments? I mean, Juanita Broderick saying, fire her, DEI is gone. Well, let's keep your eyes peeled on Wisconsin. I bet you we're going to get an update soon. If that's what's happening, that's blatant disrespect to your commander-in-chief, and that you could be relieved of your duties pretty much immediately. This shouldn't take long. I'll expect an update on this by the end of the EOD. Regarding the latest terror attack, Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania says, last night at about 2 a.m., my family and I woke up to bangs on the door from the Pennsylvania State Police after an arsonist set fire to the governor's residence in Harrisburg. The Harrisburg Bureau of Fire was on the scene, and while they worked to put out the fire, we were evacuated from the residence safely by Pennsylvania State Police and assisted by Capitol Police. Thank God no one was injured and the fire was extinguished. Every day we stand with the law enforcement and first responders who run toward danger to protect our communities. Last night they did so for our family, and Lori and I are eternally grateful to them for keeping us safe. J.D. Vance says, thanks be to God that Governor Shapiro and his family were unharmed in this attack. Really disgusting violence, and I hope whoever did it is brought swiftly to justice. Data Republican chimes in and says, glad Governor Shapiro is safe. JD's saying what he can say, but I'll say what he can't. Political violence is not a both sides problem. It's metastasized on the Democrat side, and its polling proves it. 58% of left-leaning respondents say it's somewhat acceptable to destroy Tesla dealership for political ends. I had to evacuate my home for a month after leftist activists published my husband's distillery on a viral website with a Molotov cocktail cursor, while leftist arsonists firebombed dealerships and celebrated it on social media. Here's the truth. That's not fringe. That's mainstream majority left ideology. That's why Vice President Vance is condemning the attack on Shapiro clearly and without excuse, and why you're not seeing that from Walz or Harris or from any prominent Democrat. We are not the same. And the left's response will be the same as always. Ignore the violence from their own side, pretend their silence is principled, then nitpick the right's condemnation is not enough. And yes, they'll gaslight just enough people to get away with it again. USN Vet 5th Fleet says it's nice being a governor and getting instant access to emergency services. I wonder why the same emergency services just stood by when BLM and Antifa were burning cities in Pennsylvania. That sounds like it's a knock on Shapiro. That's a good question. How long has Shapiro served Pennsylvania? Served. Serving is like if you do it for free, like President Trump. Everybody else is collecting a check. Oh, he's only been the governor of Pennsylvania since January 23. So who was PA governor during the Summer of Love Democrat nationwide terrorist attacks? I'm definitely putting some heated language in there. Let's see if Grok can decipher. (2020). Tom Wolf was the governor of Pennsylvania from 2015 to 23. All right, Tom Wolf. Oh, sorry, it's out of there we go. Pass the Mic says, hey, Shapiro, you didn't show this much empathy when Tesla service centers were burned. Gina says, can someone point me to a single statement from Governor Shapiro condemning Teslas being set on fire or the violence coming from the left toward the right? I'll wait. Until then, sorry, but I honestly couldn't care less. David Sullivan says, Democrats be crazy. Glad your family is safe. Democrats then burn down historic churches, wore masks to hide their shame, destroyed Black-owned businesses. But Democrats now, they burn down historic churches, they wear masks to hide their shame, and they destroy Black-owned businesses. Oh, so the same, according to David Sullivan. Ash says, man, if you were only this upset when houses were being burned down during BLM, no, what you did was march with the arsonists. You applauded Antifa. I'm not shedding a tear. Did Josh Shapiro march with them and do that? He wasn't governor at the time. The Masters over the weekend here. Bryson greeting a whole bunch of people. You know, engaging with the fans, making some new fans. Mirthful Moments here says, the Democrat Party destroyed the DOJ, the FBI, every blue city, the CIA, the rule of law, the Constitution, the border, the banks, the CDC, the FDA, the children, trust in vaccines, trust in doctors, fair elections, liberty, free speech, Bill of Rights, middle class, everything it touches. The Democrat Party has destroyed the USA. Do you agree or disagree? Type it in the comments, please. Trump hated for exposing the truth. Tucker hated for telling the truth. And Elon hated for letting the truth be told. Okay, so here's the clickbait. Oh, is this a different Scott Adams? Oh my gosh, no. There's two Scott Adamses. Trump missed shaking RFK Jr.'s actress's wife Cheryl Hines' hand, but went back to greet her. So there, he missed her. But then he went back and acknowledged her existence. Okay, that's good. Is that Elon right there? Cash right there. They're turning these MMA events into like must-watch TV. RFK Jr., Health and Human Services, he's talking about what we know about autism. Are we allowed to have this conversation? Is our, excuse me, big tech, is our Health and Human Services director allowed to speak? Or will you delete my account for allowing it? Go to cisa.gov/rumor control. Countervailing views, cdc.gov, who.int, right? Under duress, I have to tell you that.
The studies that they did were very, very narrow, and there were about 17 studies. The Institute of Medicine, which is part of the National Academy of Sciences, says that 14 of those studies are invalid. And the biggest weakness in those studies is they never studied vaccinated versus unvaccinated group, which is the only way that you can really make this determination. And more importantly, none of the vaccines that are given to children during the first 6 months of life were ever studied. We're going to look at vaccines, but we're going to look at everything. Everything is on the table. Our food system, our water, our air, different ways of parenting, all the kind of changes that may have triggered this epidemic. It is an epidemic. Epidemics are not caused by genes. Genes can provide a vulnerability, but you need an environmental toxin. So we know that it is an environmental toxin that is causing this cataclysm. And we are going to identify it. We are narrowly focused on identifying it and using as many scientists as we can from universities and research centers all over the world to focus them through NIH, through Jay Bhattacharya, to focus them on answering this question.
It's about damn time. Brian Cates says, I'm telling you, I'll tell you again. Marks knows what Bobby is going to find in that federal database on V deaths and injuries. He knows. That's why he's making the media rounds right now after he got fired for trying to block Bobby and his researchers' access to the database. He's out there furiously trying to do damage control. There's been a massive decades-long cover-up by our public servants who've been running our government health medical agencies that were captured by Big Pharma years and years ago. RFK Jr. is about to end the cover-up. When he does, American parents are going to be absolutely and completely and utterly and totally out for blood over what they were tricked into doing to their kids with these Vs. And you can quote me on that, says Brian Cates. Vigilant Fox here sharing clips from a Joe Rogan episode here and a thread. Doctors have been trained to fear cholesterol. But what if the real danger isn't high cholesterol? It's misunderstanding it. Millions are taking things called statins, and it may be doing more harm than good. I encourage you to read the thread and check out that conversation. Once again, England needs to be freed. This is Alex shared this. British thought police warn an elderly, partially deaf man that saying speak English is a hate crime. In England.
Apparently during some conversations between yourself, apparently you have alleged, and we weren't here, so I don't know you said it, but you've alleged to say speak English. Or was that effect? Speak clearly. Speak clearly.
No,
okay.
The gentleman's partially deaf.
Yeah, he can speak clearly. Yeah.
So I couldn't even hear him.
No, and that's fine, and that's why we've just come to speak, because potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
Did we just know this?
Someone could potentially see that as a hate crime. Yeah, somebody could potentially see everything as a hate crime, which is why you stop this craziness. You're allowed to offend people. There's no society where you cannot offend people. There's no such universe where that exists. Allowing people to use offense as an offensive weapon? Hell no. Push back on that.
People, if someone says to me, officer, I believe this, then we need to look at it, because someone's potentially reporting to me.
If someone comes up to an officer and says, I believe this, then they have to go do the dirty work. They have to become the henchman. No, you don't. Resist that. That is madness, people. If I'm up in Canada and someone says speak French, okay. Oh my God, it's a hate crime. Shut up. You're allowed to say things. If I'm in Germany and someone says speak German, oh my gosh, that's so hateful. You're in their country, speak their language. The country's called England. They're English. Speak English. Oh my gosh, we're ready to arrest you, throw you in a cage. Huh? You better not. Ugh. It's so sad to see where society has fallen. Yeah, David, they were definitely doing their best to destroy things. This isn't an accident. This isn't, we have a crisis. No, this is an intentional act. Like all of this, the whole overarching theme of this is called the Obama Doctrine, and it's their playbook. Brian Cates had another thought here. He says, this is true. At least one of the memos Comey gave to his friend to leak the New York Times for him was classified. So he's making a point here that Comey and his leaking of classified material, allegedly, there is no statute of limitations on that. No lawyer can get you out of that. Doesn't matter how long ago it happened. Comey admitted and bragged about what he did to the press, according to Brian Cates here. Comey should be in the list of the top 50 that get indicted right off the bat, right off the jump. Liz Collin here, reporting.
Several Minneapolis police officers to take the stand in Derek Chauvin's trial. And specifically, she says during Chauvin's state trial that she does not recognize the technique that Derek Chauvin is using. We used about 30 seconds of her testimony in that documentary, The Fall of Minneapolis, which was released back in 2023. We were sued by Katie Blackwell just this past October, so nearly a year later, for the documentary and also for my book called They're Lying, The Media, the Left, and the Death of George Floyd. That's the first piece of work we put out surrounding all of this, just trying to get the truth out in any way we possibly could. And she specifically takes issue with how she's depicted on the stand. She says that she was defamed through The Fall of Minneapolis and the book. Well, just this week on Tuesday, Judge Edward Wall with Hennepin County ruled in our favor to have that lawsuit dismissed. And what's quite interesting with this, as part of our order for dismissal, we gathered dozens and dozens of police officers that called her testimony into question. They signed sworn court declarations to say this was a part of training.
That's how they were trained to subdue a subject.
In fact, 14 actually used the word perjury, that Katie Blackwell, who has...
Katie Blackwell accused of perjury on at least 14 occasions by 14 people who were trained for the upper shoulder, upper back, neck, knee, face down restraint. That's how they were trained in Minnesota.
Has since been promoted twice, keep in mind, since Chauvin's trial. She's now the assistant police chief in Minneapolis, that she perjured herself during that trial. So the judge, in his 58-page order that he put out, his ruling on Tuesday, again in our favor, throwing this whole lawsuit out. Our attorney called it garbage from the very beginning. But in many ways, this is really going to mean quite a few things, I think, not only for Chauvin, but for the other three officers as well. The ruling saying things like each statement that Judge Blackwell complains about, or Blackwell that complains about, is substantially true, using that language.
And so check out that documentary. It's stunning, the amount of footage you haven't seen. The guy was peacefully arrested. He was complaining about panic attack, heart attack, overdose, can't breathe, claustrophobic, I can't go back. He was peacefully arrested, and he wiggled his way out of the cop car to like where he expired. And the question is, was that because of what the cop did, or is that because the guy had a heart attack, or because he had an overdose? Was the training something that the cop shouldn't have been doing? And what'd she say? 13 of the police they said, this is what Minnesota trained us to do. He did what he was trained to do. And of course, I've long argued what we need to learn from this is if you're trying to subdue someone and they are not going along with it, you need to do the hands behind the back, do an ankle restraint, and tie the wrists to the ankles and let that person calm down or freak out without the appearance of asphyxiation or strangulation or breaking a larynx or causing the death. If they're going to have a medical episode, get off of them. Don't make, whether you're doing it or not, you don't want to be perceived as doing it. So that's my call. If someone, because he was arrested and put in the back of the cop car. He got out the other side. He worked his way out. They didn't have that damn other door closed. Otherwise, this would have never happened. He would have been taken for processing, and he either would have been fine or he would have had his medical event in a facility. That video looked damning, but there's a lot to that case that you're not aware of. You didn't see that video. From the moment that police officer walked up, George Floyd was saying he couldn't breathe. He was having a hard time. He had a massive freak out. Once again, was that a heart attack? Was that just terror? Was it an overdose? Was it a combination of all these things? We saw the toxicology reports of all the things that were in the system. We heard of various autopsies. We saw one approved autopsy. Did we see all of them? So there's a story I don't think you're done hearing about. Remember, they tried to Epstein Chauvin. God, I think he got stabbed 35 times or something. You know. Amuse here saying DEI Fort McCoy's Colonel Sheila Baez Ramirez refuses to display Secretary of Defense and POTUS photographs. When will she be relieved from command? Luke Radowski asking this question. He goes, well, he posted, he goes, damn, I'm kind of tired of living inside a giant pyramid scheme controlled by criminals who gaslight us into believing they are the good guys. And Luke says, you got to try to break out of the matrix. Tim Poole shares this.
It's cheaper than therapy.
Says these people, these are Brits. Modern left is a cult. And the fact that a foreign country has a political faction act this way over a guy not impacting their government proves it. In Great Britain, they're going to smash a Tesla. Billionaires suck. Pay your tax. Everyone hates Elon. Cult behavior, people. What is that? Gary Franchi? What is this? This is old. CIA whistleblower Alan Harlow Parrott dropped hard evidence that pins the execution of SEAL Team 6 on Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden, and they covered it up according to this. Next News Network. Not familiar with this. This is an older report, but we shared it. It's interesting for your consideration. It's a 10-minute clip if you want to watch it. It's on our page. Libs of TikTok reporting Democrat Representative Jasmine Crockett now under investigation by the FEC over donations made to her campaign through the leftist fundraising organization Act Blue. Evidence reportedly shows that an individual donated to her campaign over 50 times without her knowledge, suggesting that donations were being given under false names. Crockett received over $870,000 in total donations through Act Blue. Which is the first one? Clay Travis just got back from George Clooney's Good Night and Good Luck Broadway play. Story about the importance of trust and honesty in news. The play ends with Elon on screen, allegedly giving a Nazi salute. The crowd gasps. Except Musk wasn't giving a Nazi salute. He was tapping his heart to express love for crowd around him. So the play about the importance of trust and honesty in news actually ends with evidence of why the news can't be trusted and isn't honest. And judging by the gasping reaction of the audience, most people believed Musk was giving a Nazi salute. The subtext of the entire play was, be careful or the media will play you for fools. And then the crowd got played for fools and cheered it. I'm not sure if it's diabolical satire of cheering crowd or a painful lack of self-awareness and accidental destruction of the play's message. He says, I'd go. I enjoyed the play. I just thought the conclusion destroyed the message of the play, unless it was the satire of the cheering crowd. Of course, yeah, someone should hold up a sign with these. Hillary, Pocahontas, Kamala, and Barry, all motioning with their arms. Oh, no. And look at this swashbuckling gentleman sashaying onto the scene with the exact same arm pose. It's so goofy. Owen Sparks here says that Elon knows the games the media play, so he decided to mess with them at the cabinet meeting by writing top secret on his notepad, knowing that they would be snapping pics of his notes. Top secret. All right, here's Nick Freitas explaining how Jokeland has gone from a legitimate city to just a laughingstock that loses every one of their sports franchises and the only In-N-Out burger to ever close because of their criminal activity. Fix yo shit, Oakland.
Oh,
or Jokeland, as I call them.
Oh, California, what will you think of next? Turns out in Oakland, if somebody graffitis your property and you don't clean it up within 10 days of the city notifying you, you can be fined up to $6,000. Guess what the penalty is for the person that actually did the graffiti? $1,000. That's right, because Oakland. Oh,
because Oakland. Yeah, there's the Irish Prime Minister getting heckled. He's down the street by angry citizens. Ireland, make Ireland great again. Najiri says the last 4 years seems like NGOs were on steroids to enrich themselves. Who knew NGO was the easiest pathway to becoming a millionaire? What could have happened if Kamala had stolen the election? Jeez. Data Republican says, over the last few months, we've come to a realization that should have landed much harder. NGOs weren't just adjacent to government. They were the parallel government. We were shocked. I was too, but looking back, it's exactly what you'd expect. NGOs operate outside the chain of command. They answer to no electorate, no oversight, no public mandate. They can push any agenda they choose without accountability. So the real question isn't how this happened or even why. The real question is, why were we surprised? The moment that Biden took office, the plan was already in motion. NGOs had the infrastructure, the logistics, and the funding pipelines, everything ready to go. They didn't need permission. They just needed power. And when they got it, they had it all set up from day one, overnight. Day one. Overnight, we were flooded with illegal immigrants under the cover of a coordinated strategy that had been waiting in the wings. I've been acting like this was some secret operation pulled off behind our backs, but it wasn't. I wasn't deceived. I just failed to see what was right in front of me, because if you wanted to carry out a bloodless coup, this is exactly how you do it. The setup is this: Marxist billionaires fund NGOs. NGOs develop game plans on how to execute an agenda on day one. NGOs also build credibility through smaller government contracts. Then, as soon as the right administration funds them, they execute on their big bad plan. NGOs in a nutshell, people. Donald J. Trump posts from his Truth Social account. Says the war between Russia and Ukraine is Biden's war, not mine. I just got here, and for 4 years during my term had no problem in preventing it from happening. President Putin and everyone else respected your president. I had nothing to do with this war, but I'm working diligently to get the death and destruction to stop. If the 2020 presidential election was not rigged, and it was in so many ways, that horrible war would never have happened. President Zelensky and crooked Joe Biden did an absolutely horrible job in allowing this travesty to begin. There were so many ways of preventing it from ever starting. That is the past. Now we have to get it to stop, and fast. So sad. So no, he couldn't get it fixed on day one, but he's trying. Here's another post from our President Trump. NVIDIA will now manufacture American-made AI supercomputers in the U.S. for the first time. Well, that's probably good, since it looks like where you're at might get invaded by China. So we better liquidate all of the useful stuff while we still can, huh? Keep your eyes peeled on China if that's going to escalate. Speaking of escalation, you don't get to stab somebody in the heart and end their life because they tell you you're sitting in the wrong spot. That's not self-defense. That's a murder. And if we understand the story correctly, this isn't even a story. This is insane. But Nick Sorter reporting that a judge has lowered killer Carmelo Anthony's bond from $1 million to just $250,000 after killing Austin Metcalf. Fundraising campaigns have already raised well over $500,000 for Anthony, so he'll be out on bond imminently. Thought that was immediately. Austin's family deserves justice, and this is not justice. Here's the father of the deceased boy.
I'm not trying to judge, but what kind of parents did this child have? What was he taught? He brought a knife to a track meet, and he murdered my son by stabbing him in the heart.
And by the way, I have no problem with somebody having a gun. I have no problem with somebody having a knife. I used to carry a knife all the time. I carry guns all the time. You don't have a right to just attack somebody, or if someone says, hey, you're in the wrong spot, aha, I get to end your life. That's not self-defense.
The guy was in the wrong place. They asked him to move, and he bowed up. This is murder. I don't know. I know they have someone in custody.
Yeah, we do.
And you know what? I already forgive this person.
Already?
Already. God takes care of things. God's going to take care of me. God's going to take care of my family. I'm not trying to judge, but...
Oh, yikes. Austin died in his twin brother's arms after being stabbed in the heart earlier this month. Prosecutors asked Anthony's father, Andrew Anthony, why he could not use over $400,000 in donated funds for his son's bond. The father told the court he has no access to the donated funds and can't afford to pay the bond. The defense described Anthony as an A student and captain of the football and track teams at his high school. Anthony's father was questioned about a February high school assault. Oh, really? This guy? Is that the guy? Anthony's father was also questioned about a February high school assault altercation with his son. It remains unclear whether he was the aggressor, the victim, or a witness. The incident was handled internally by the school district. We should know what happened there. All right. This was just a post showing Weird Al Yankovic, the video Foil. That's 10 years ago. We just said it's one of the best conspiracy music videos of all time. Desiree here. Fox confirms even PETA praised the Trump administration for phasing out cruel tests on dogs. Remember Fauci's beagles? The torture? Take a look. Meet Uno, one of the beagles who was saved from a lab. Saved from a torture lab.
21 weeks post Fauci's beagle test.
21 weeks post Fauci beagle test.
Fauci's beagle test. Yeah. The Post ran a cover story saying it was a fake claim about beagle research. Cover story in the Sunday paper saying we were liars.
And they called them liars, saying that they weren't torturing like demons beagles who were being eaten alive by flies. And their whimpers and cries were so loud and so pathetic and so gut-wrenching. The researchers asked to disable and sever the vocal cords of the dogs so they could silently be eaten alive instead of whimpering for help while these monsters, these demons, watched. Just to take notes. You don't hate Fauci enough. So yeah, they called them liars.
Then we got all the documents and the receipts through FOIA show.
So the FOIA documents showed, yeah, that's absolutely what Fauci was up to.
That Fauci absolutely funded the photo that you took, that you showed on the floor. When you showed it, the Post wanted to run a hit piece about you and us.
Yeah, so the Post said, oh, let's run a hit piece on Marjorie Taylor Greene and the White House for, yeah, we'll run a hit piece. We can't dispute the message, so let's go after the messenger. You don't hate the Democrats enough.
Spreading fake news.
The deep state Democrats enough.
Disinformation. So they called me and they said, hey, why are you in MTG? Yeah. So they said, why are you and MTG still sharing this fake news about Fauci? It's been debunked. And I said, well, actually, we have the receipts through the Freedom of Information Act showing the Congresswoman is absolutely right. They wrote a fact check piece that fact checked their own reporting and said that Fauci and the NIH lied to them about it in 2020.
Oh, they said Fauci lied along with the NIH in 2021.
And that we were absolutely right, and that he did fund that lab. And I would say Fauci is probably more, as an individual, responsible for more animal testing than any single other individual in history.
Fauci is more responsible for more animal torture than any human in history.
Yeah. Well, I really support what you've done, and Dr. Fauci belongs in prison. What do you think, Uno? Dr. Fauci needs to go to jail? Yes. And all the other rotten people that did terrible things to you and all your.
Thank you, MTG. We need to thank some of these people a little bit more often. Luke Rudowski. Well, here's a 3.5-minute clip. I won't play it for you, but in 2018, she had one opinion on Yemen, and then in 2025, she has a new opinion 7 years later. Maybe I don't know. But watch it if you want. Isn't Yemen where the Houthis are? Am I remembering that story? Let me ask. What? I think Yemen is where the Houthis were. Yemeni Houthis have downed another U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone, the 4th in 14 days, 19th in total. I guess that is the answer from Yemen to the strikes. Is that what this is? Yeah. Okay, so is that another U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone shot down by the Houthis in Yemen, tells Fox News, say sources. 4th drone shot down since March 3rd, 4th under the Trump administration. U.S. Central Command began daily airstrikes on the Houthis March 15. U.S. military carried out 25 straight days of bombing, including B-2 stealth bombers dropping bunker buster bombs. Yet the Houthis continue to fire missiles to shoot these expensive U.S. assets down. All right. Airstrikes kill 6 people. Ballistic missile fired by Houthis in Yemen struck Saudi Arabia. All right, what's the latest? Deep dive into Yemen, Mikey K. What's the latest? Why are we bombing? Because the Houthis upended global trade. Why are we celebrating Trump? Because he upended... Oh, that's stupid. They're claiming that Houthis destroyed an American aircraft carrier, Truman, so badly that it became useless. I don't know. All right. Well, anyway, Luke got us on that story. We'll bounce off of it. Where are we at? Okay. Switch to this tab. Here we go. Western North Carolina family of 6 who've been living in a shed with their 3 dogs and a newborn baby. Hang on, am I showing you this? Let me go up and down. There we go. I'll just go full screen. Here's a good story.
This little shed is not a lot of room for anyone, let alone
4 kids, 3 dogs, lizard.
This is what the Lynch family has had since their home was lost during the storm.
At one point, we did feel the house shift a little bit because of the foundation. We did have to tear it down a few months ago. There was a lot of damage. It's been rough.
While volunteers from Indiana were in Fairview right after Helene, one got back in touch with Philip Troyer.
A fellow then called me and said, we'd like to donate enough money to pay for 2 homes.
Fast forward to this week, and a brand new double wide is waiting for the Lynches.
All new appliances, which is great. This is actually an upgraded home, and it's very energy efficient.
It's a huge blessing. We didn't expect, to be given a home.
Troyer has been a Fairview resident for 40 years. He used to own an Amish furniture store. Those old connections are making sure the Lynches don't move into an empty space.
And I started talking to them, and they said, well, we'd like to donate the furniture too. I'm going up this weekend and get another load of furniture. I brought 1 load down already.
We're very excited. Very excited.
Very happy to see these people get their lives back on track.
And there are 2 more homes on the way. The helpful group of neighbors don't want it to be the last.
We have 14 more people on the list that need homes, that are living in either campers or tiny homes. So our goal right now is to raise $2.2 million just to do those 14 homes.
On top of all this generosity, there's a family in Fairview that said they will match any donation of up to $50,000 made to fairviewstrong.org. You can make donations.
All right. Bravo. I really like seeing the country being put back together. All right. Jim Ferguson reporting this. Whoa. What is President Trump saying about September?
There was 1 in 10,000 children had autism.
1 in 10,000 children with autism.
And now it's 1 in 31.
1 in 31. Holy shit.
Not 31,000, 31. That's a horrible statistic, isn't it? And there's got to be something artificial out there that's doing this. So you think you're going to have a pretty good idea, huh?
We will know by September.
There will be no bigger news conference than that. So that's it. If
They will know by September.
you can come up with that answer where you stop taking something, you stop eating something, or maybe it's a shot, but something's causing it. It can't be from 10,000 to. Can you imagine that, Marco? That's a big number.
Can you imagine that, Marco? He's like, hey, man, don't bring me into this. Don't bring me into this. The thoughts are that September is not going to be a good month for certain pharmaceutical companies. Now, wait, hold on. I watched this. He didn't say He didn't say September is not going to be a good month for Pfizer and Moderna. He didn't say that.
but something's causing.
They're reporting it.
News conference on that. So that's it. If you can come up with that answer where you stop taking something, you stop eating something, or maybe it's a shot, but something's causing it. It can't be from 10,000 to, can you imagine that, Marco? That's a big number.
Well, anyway, I don't know what this quotation, September is not going to be a good month for Pfizer and Moderna. Like, that wasn't in this clip. So come on, Jim Ferguson, don't do that. USAID poured $40 billion into an NGO that seed funded thousands more, unlocking hundreds of billions in government grants. Trump cut them off, and now Soros' NGO empire is unraveling.
President Trump is a con man and the ultimate narcissist.
Yeah, says the ultimate narcissist who loves overthrowing nations by destroying their currency.
Who wants the world to revolve around him.
No. You're projecting. You want the world to revolve around you. You're doing what the deep state Democrats always do, accuse your opponents of exactly what you're doing.
When his fantasy of becoming president came true, his narcissism developed a pathological dimension.
Yeah, okay. You've lost the plot, pal. You lost the plot. All right, here's Bill Maher on his Club Random.
You get a certain amount of cult followers for anything, and then the true believers never die. I mean, a lot of people would say right now the Democratic Party is still in that mode, which is going to render them possibly an irrelevant party if they don't change.
What would you like to see from the Democrats, like, going forward?
Well, much more centrism, much more get rid of the woke baggage, you know. Old school liberal is what I usually describe myself as. But that's very often the opposite of woke. Woke would like people to believe that they're some sort of an extension of liberalism, but they're not. They're usually something that's quite opposite. Liberalism was, we should have a colorblind society and not see race at all. That's not what the woke believe.
That's the Obama doctrine. Everything is race.
Yeah, I would say
they're the opposite.
Quite.
Let's put race at the front of everything.
Yep, absolutely. Oppressor and oppressed, sacred, make a sacred the oppressed.
That is the Obama doctrine. Man, did race relations go sideways when he got involved. Community agitator, community organizer in the vein of Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson. Everything was race with Obama, and it was with Biden because Obama was running that third shadow term. All right, I did share this with you earlier. President Trump took his physical and got his cognitive exam. He's doing great. There you go. Wow, that was weird. I kind of glitched. Yeah, it's interesting. Can you answer this? If Meta might be forced to sell Instagram due to FTC antitrust concerns, why can BlackRock own everything under the sun? Does that make sense to anyone? What context are we missing there? All right, and then a couple of other stories, and that concludes our show. This is our documentary, Hurricane Helene, Help on the Way. Please check that one out. Awesome. Thank you all for being here today. It's been a blast. Follow the New American Media on Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, Kick, DLive, and YouTube by searching The New American Media. Hit subscribe, hit all of the things that you can. On Rumble, you can send us rants. It's like the super chat on YouTube, but YouTube won't monetize us. Even though millions of views and, 6,500 subscribers and 1,800 videos, they won't let us earn advertising revenue over there. Rumble does, at least, so join us on Rumble. And if you let that advertisement play, it's like tossing a penny into our wishing well. They all add up, so please let that happen if you're watching. We're on Telegram and Signal at TNAM and TNAM Chat. We're on X at American_media_. Sub to our podcast, the Agree to Disagree Show, up there in the corner. There it is. the Agree to Disagree Show podcast on Spotify and Apple. If anyone would like to make a donation to the New American Media, we're on Patreon at the New American Media, Venmo at Brian Engelman, Cash App $ Brian Engelman, and Fuzz Installment on PayPal. Of course, countervailing views for health and elections, cdc.gov and who.int and cisa.gov/rumor control. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the show today. We'll be back again tomorrow with another fabulous episode of the TNAM AM Show, a subdivision of the Agree to Disagree Show here on the New American Media, because the old American media has failed you. I appreciate you. I love you. And we'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Peace.